as the kids are saying today, Peem Fiction. Hello, everybody.
As Saros would say.
I was just thinking because I have someone who's responded to like some of the Mushoku Tensei novels I've been reading on Twitter, and they reply and they just leave Peem, and I was like, oh, is that like a misspelling of peak? Is that what that is?
Honestly, I am not aware of this. I'm aware of the
I looked
peak
it up and I
fiction
just
thing.
saw of like one
Absolutely.
person doing a tweet where it was like, yes, I could truly say this is Peem Fiction, and like that's the only way I could like like I can frame what this word means. That's why I said as the kids are saying these days, because it's me, like it was a joke of like I'm old and out of touch because I don't actually know what's going on.
Yeah, it just sounds like a typo, but you know what? It is Peem Fiction. It is indeed Peem Fiction. I have been excited for a long time to talk about this particular reading, but
You don't say.
I'm even more excited after actually rereading it. I could not, and Crafts too.
So I guess to not spoil, but to explain. So I read 13, like 2 chapters a day, pretty normal pace. Maybe like 3 chapters a day, or and then I'd skip the next day or whatever. I wasn't like, and that was also the case for like about half of volume 14. But then I read like, oh, I'll read 2 chapters a day, and then I read like I think like 8 and 9, and I was like, and then I was like, I'll read another because I feel like it. Or no, I think I noticed like it was Turning Point 4 coming up, and I was like, well, I think I have to read that, don't I? And then I read it, and I was, well, okay, I got a little, well, it's like, it spoiled me, because I fucked up, because on Goodreads, I used to catalog the books that it's my list, but for books. And I accidentally read the synopsis for the first like half of the sentence for the synopsis of book 15, and it basically spoiled the turning point a bit. But it didn't spoil it emotionally for me, because it's still such a big deal that even knowing what was coming a little bit, and still like because it didn't prepare me at all for anything, really. So I basically read that, and then I proceeded to spend the entire day just reading all of volume 15. Like, I read 1.5 books on last Saturday.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I couldn't.
That's even more.
I couldn't stop.
That's even more than me, because I read volume 15 in pretty much one day, and that was the only one of the volumes I read in like one sitting.
Yeah, so I not only read all of that volume, but I also like a little less than half of the previous one. So, oops.
That's crazy. Yeah, but I mean, it only took me a week to read all 3 of these volumes. So I mean, it was a break.
Yeah, it took me like probably a week and a half, I would say.
Yeah. Suffice it to say, this is obviously the best batch yet. I would say confidently.
Yeah.
I would imagine you agree.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's put this like it's like. Yeah, 14 is like I would say it's like it's business as normal so far. Like for most, like and like I mean, like they're still really good, but then like it hits you hit turning point and it's like, oh fuck, and then volume 15 is just like exactly like I mean it's well, because like I mentioned before, like not knowing where the story goes, and it's like, but now that the turning point just give. Hey, we'll talk about it later. Let's get into comments first, actually, before we get, because I know we have to. We're kind of been going on a volume by volume basis, so let's keep up with that, because I know we want to talk about volume 15 and 14 and the turning point and how good it was. But anyway, comments. So Cloud did clarify what he meant. So I don't know if you wanted to respond to that.
Yeah, he says, if I'm remembering correctly, HotBoySpicy, you're wanting Rudy to make a moral judgment on slavery. No, not quite. So essentially what I was saying is I wanted Rudius to be thinking about his experiences with Ruijerd and how Ruijerd wouldn't like this, and how it makes him a little bit uncomfortable that he sees this, because the situation he's in, he knows he can't do anything about it. And while he doesn't like it, he can't, like I said, he can't really do anything about it. The moral judgment, it's not really in Rudius's character to make like a blanket moral judgment about this society, but I think it would be in character for him to feel a little bit uncomfortable given his respect for Ruijerd and given his experiences with Ruijerd, if that makes sense, right? So I'm kind of in between what you're saying. But yeah, from my interpretation of Rudy, I believe that isn't congruent with his character. Obviously, that's not what I was going for, but I can see what you mean. Yeah, I guess that's it. But that's all I got to say on that one. I think it's just a bit of a misunderstanding. But
He also
that's
has a
okay.
follow-up comment mentioned, and Ronan, I believe, or no, was it Ronan? No, it was Motomahara Mark also mentioning other Mushoku Tensei stories, I guess web novel ones. I don't like Cloud mentions Old Dragon's Tale, and then yeah, he talks about Recollections and Redundant Reincarnation, which you already brought about. Then A Journey of Two Lifetimes, which is, and then Jobless Oblige. I don't know how to pronounce that. So
Oblige,
there's more. I don't know what we're gonna read yet. It depends on like what's available, what's translated. Because I'm not necessarily like committed to reading only official, but it also depends on like how important they are and how like burnt how we feel about it by the time we get to the end. I guess because I'm fine with because I just figured because there's also I think because there's obviously the two novels we're already reading. So you know if we feel like I'm ready to move on by the time we get to that point. Because like as good as Bleach was, I was definitely feeling into the Camp Fear and Whirl and Burn the Witch. It's like I'm ready to do something else, and we were getting really good. We were getting a lot of those even still, but it's also like this is like our fucking 12th Bleach episode. Let's do something else. But anyway,
it might be the same with that. We might even only do one of these. Although I mean, I'm interested in reading more beyond the podcast.
Of course.
I probably would on my own time anyway. So, but that's we'll figure it out when we get to that point. But Charlie or Iser, I don't know how to say her name. I pretty much agree with you actually about Paul fully meaning what he meant to Rudius, but I think this is I think this is an example of like the common phrase where it's like, actions speak louder than words, basically.
Yeah.
I think Paul in that moment meant what he said to Rudius, and I agree with you there. But I think deep down, what he felt for Rudius in a perilous situation was not congruent with the words he was saying, basically.
Well, that's
like,
the thing is,
under no circumstance would he actually allow that. When push came to shove. And Paul, of course, probably didn't, like you're mentioning here, didn't know that in the moment, but it took that moment coming about for Paul to understand, like, no, I can't allow this, right, as a father. So yeah, that's what I think. I pretty much agree with you.
Mm-hmm. I think we talked. I was talking a little about something to that effect similarly, but maybe I didn't get it across very well. But all good.
You might have mentioned exactly that. I just don't even remember.
Yeah, it's fine. Ronan had a smaller comment about like that. I didn't get into it because, by the way, this book it was specifically I was talking about the difference in adulthood between America and Japan as contrasted in Hikikomori, Adolescence Without End, the book. This book is 24 years old, and it's like a little but I feel like that, at least for me, that idea still existed because my dad was like, you guys need to leave at a certain point. And it was a while, admittedly. Like when I moved back in with my dad in 2022, he said like early 2023, he said you have a year to move out, right? Because I'm 33 years old, and like culturally, we have a history where it's like, oh, you're 18, you get married and you get a house, right? Like that's the cultural expectations, but obviously, like Ronan's saying, it's not really possible anymore. But even if it's not possible, there's still that general believe that exactly the culture, the history, the tradition, the expectation, right? So I was referencing a 25-year-old book to get that idea across and like sort of highlighting why Rudy might have had this desire to pay his parents back specifically because for him it's also cultural, right? Even though it's also more difficult today in Japan for kids to support their parents because of those social problems. So just wanted to clarify that.
Moto is sharing our frustration basically with the Sylphie and Roxy stuff, and I completely agree. Where it's like people who do criticize the characters, especially in that section, do seem to just not really home in on what matters, which is the perspective of Sylphie and Roxy. So they look at the situation and they say it's bad because it lacks monogamy, but it's like, well, that disregards the nuance of like these character dynamics, right, and how they feel about the situation. I just think a little bit closed-minded. And so I agree.
And then I don't think I have anything specifically to go into it for it, but Ronan had a really nice big last comment. Oh, damn. So the latest manga chapter scanned in English, at least, is them going down in the dungeon to rescue Roxy. I just noticed that while skimming through. So that's how far, but that's how far the English translation is behind, because obviously the actual Japanese manga might be further ahead. I don't know how far behind the scanlation is.
I'm not actually sure about the unofficial translation, how prompt they are. Who knows? I don't. Maybe Ronan knows. Maybe he can answer that. But and yes, Spanish commenter, our boy.
Oh 2D. Ellen Elise
is definitely the GOAT. True.
She gets even better in this reading.
True. Awesome though. The lizard guy is a man who was capturing the animals and bought them.
Yes.
He is different than the three three of them that died. I'm trying.
Well, okay, one of them was killed by Ruijerd. The other of them died during the time skip between, because we found out that he was dead in volume 14 when Rudy went back to to find that the animal place had been turned into a butcher shop, and the third one just went off somewhere and was not seen. So, because when Rudy left, there were two of them alive that were working with them to do the scam with the Adventurers Guild, right, where they were trading jobs because they were a higher rank, so that way Rudy could do high-level jobs, and then,
Yeah.
But anyway.
Cool, yeah, thank you for pointing that out for us, since we forgore. And Lucas, yes, the house renovation chapter was based. Thank you for agreeing. Lastly, my comment that I made on this is hidden until you go newest first.
Oh, fuck.
And then
God.
And then my comment will show up.
YouTube hates you.
And since most people probably didn't get to see it, because
you do have 4 likes, which is tied for second on this all the comments. So it just doesn't show. Yeah, that's weird.
I'd imagine there's a lot of people who just didn't get to see it. I'll go ahead and read it. Fuck it, whatever. I said, something I wish I mentioned this episode is how Ruijerd's conversation with Norn and Millis is a perfect encapsulation of what Rudius needed in his previous life. Norn, having been talked down to and told what she should do, was unable to come to accept her circumstances. The adults in her life explain this is the way it has to be because of her disposition, but they don't think to meet her where she's at. This is the same problem Rudius faced with all the consolation he received. People wanted to help him, but they could never approach resonant words because they were not truly looking at things from his perspective. Ruijerd, however, has an affinity for children and a warrior's wisdom. So, he uses both of these tools to retrieve the words Norn needs to hear, words that Rudius never received in his previous life. Adding on to this, you could take Norn always burdening herself with more responsibility and trying her best on her own as an extension of Ruijerd's words. As an individual, she needs to be stronger to move in the way she wants. This sentiment carries on throughout all of the reading thus far. In the same way Roxy was an initial beacon for Rudius in his new life, Ruijerd is a similarly emboldening figure for Norn. And in all caps, I write, I love these characters.
Yeah.
I that just came to me very shortly after you uploaded this episode. I saw you uploaded it, then I got to thinking about the reading, and I was like, oh, wait, I just noticed this. And then so I thought to write this comment. But,
I did not see it, so thank you for pointing that out, because it's easy to miss.
I don't know why my account is freaking cursed, at the very least.
Shadow banned on YouTube because you're too problematic.
I guess so, man.
I don't know.
That not only the Monogatari concept, but then my last upload that was Mushoku Tensei related was like the final nail in the coffin. They were like, we cannot have this guy, his words spreading, his gospel spreading.
Unfortunate.
Here I am on the secret Dwarf Stark den, spreading it nonetheless. And speaking of which, Volume 13 is a lot of that, what some would consider sinful shit, which is, the Roxy, Rudius, and Sylphie enjoying their love lives.
That said, it fucking opens, I love where I should go to, not opens, but in the first chapter, he goes to the school and he's like, I should check out how everybody's doing. And he walks in, he's like, Zanaba! And Zanaba's like, having sex with the mannequin. So he just like closes the door and pretended it didn't happen. And then he knocks and he's like, son of a, and he's like, master. And they're like, yay. And it's like, I just love the like, I'll just pretend not to see that. He's like, okay, he's pretending not to see that. Just the mutual, like,
Yeah.
It was, that's really how we started. That's especially like when he, I didn't think of that, but it's like, yeah, until it was said later on, but it's like, oh yeah, it's absolutely true. And it's like very good, very nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he was this the point when he was going to go see Cliff, but then like he didn't because Cliff was getting busy with Ellen Elise? I think this
that happened. Well, because later Cliff was like, why are you avoiding me? And then Rudy did mention it's like, well, I went to the door, but obviously this was at a point where it's like after that was no longer an excuse, and then he was like, and then
he was avoiding him thereafter because
polygamy
of
the
Roxy,
Millis faith.
I'm remembering now. Yeah. Volume 13 is a little bit.
Well, it's good, and the slice of life stuff is really valuable, I think. But it's also like it's just because it's good. It's like, well, it's still the least good book of this reading. Like, I'm sorry, unfortunately. I mean, it's probably some of the better slice of life stuff in the series so far. But it's
definitely.
Yeah, but it's the
follow-up. Volume 13 is very, very fun slice of life. Like all of it was very enjoyable. I never thought any of it was boring, actually. So as just like, fantasy slice of life with the characters that I like, this is very enjoyable. I read this very, very fast too because I was enjoying it. It's good shit. Roxy gets a new job. Cute. Yep. Good shit. She's working at the university.
Nanahoshi calls Rudy a cradle robber because she's a loli.
Based.
She has no chill at all.
Yep.
Oh my god, when fucking Lucy was born, and when they was talking about raising her, and like the little, because I even had the thought when he's like, oh, she doesn't cry that much, and I'm like, dude.
Oh no.
Yeah, and then I'm very glad Rudy had that exact same thought, and he's like speaking to her in Japanese and just like trying to test her, basically.
That is so funny.
Just like, just to check. Well, because especially with what we know later, because with the mechanics of the reincarnation, I was even thinking about how because obviously Perugius is he wants to defeat what's the fucking how the fuck did I forget
Laplace?
Laplace. How did I forget that name?
I did it last episode. Don't worry, I forgot Ruijerd somehow.
But like, because obviously his goal is to kill the reincarnation of Laplace, and I was even thinking about how there's a very good chance that especially one of Rudy and Sylphie's children will carry on the Laplace aspect, which means that like it's also a very good chance that his grandchildren or great grandchild will be Laplace,
We'll just be Laplace. That's
right.
great.
So it's like, how's that gonna turn out? Because I think that's what this reading really does. I think for me is that it frames like, oh, this is where the story, like this is what the story's been about so far, and so it's like, it's like that's why I kept reading, because it's like, holy, like once you get to volume 14, it's like, oh, this is what's happening right now, what's next, and it's like, how do you deal with this information? Like, now I can envision like, okay, this is how the series lasts 11 more volumes, unpacking this basically. But anyway, back to the funny slice of life stuff is Zenith has some good moments here with her, just like because they compare it to Ellen Elise's, like, because we find out that she also went through something similar of being a power source for a labyrinth and being rescued and not having any memories. But I was like, because she obviously has nothing from that previous life, but Zenith still has like faint memories and emotions, like, because her just smiling and everybody like, oh, I think that happened last time actually, but then or maybe it was this time. But then I also remember when
no, that was this time for sure.
That was this time. Okay.
It's my favorite scene in the entire volume.
It's really good. Well, but I also like when after in volume 15 when it's like, well, she was Millis' faith, so it's like Roxy was already like, but then it comes home with Eris, and she like hits Rudy. She's like, like she's that was, I don't know. I imagine that in my head being, not like, like kind of cute, and I mean, because it's like, because Rudy looks down on like the way he treats himself, like because he does come, like he more so than most of the characters comes from a culture where polygamy is frowned upon, right? So he himself is like concerned about that. Like he's like when he in the previous volume when he relative to 13 when he went to Sylphie about Roxy, he was prepared, like he was going over all these possible scenarios, and that included like Sylphie leaving him and it just being him and Roxy, which would have devastated him. As we see, if he only if he loses one of the people he loves, he's it could be a slippery slope. But yeah, it was.
And I mean, and not to mention, I mean, from the perspective of his previous life, I'd imagine that he fucking hated harem MCs. He probably looked at them with scorn.
Oh yeah, especially with his
motherfuckers aren't happy with one woman. You can't just have one woman. No, but look at him now.
Right, like, or him being mad about like talented people, and now he himself is very talented and working with talented people. Right, like just that envy and just for sure.
So talented, in fact, Zanoba got him a prosthetic arm. He put one of the magical gems that can absorb shit on as well. He's rocking some high tech gear.
I like the it especially goes even deeper into that in volume 15. But yeah, just the general. I don't know. I was even thinking about it after talking last time, I think, or before, about just how I was even thinking about how just Rudy, Zanoba, Cliff, and Nanahoshi could literally like revolutionize how the world thinks about magic. And here, even in this volume, you have both Rudy's sort of like, and the discoveries you have the magic armor, and then you have the you can just do whatever the fuck you want with magic. They just haven't figured it out yet in this world. And being able to do all these kind of crazy shit with like whole fields of magic nobody uses because they don't get I guess it goes back to what I was talking about last time, how they exactly, because they frame the world like they don't understand science and these potentials because they frame the world in what they know, which is that's why they see PTSD as a curse and carbon monoxide as some kind of weird poison, when it's like, well, it is a poisonous gas, but it's also like we are breathing it right now, right? Like it's not that simple.
And I'm so glad you're mentioning this. Yeah. I'm so glad you're mentioning this because I think this is like an underrated aspect of Mushoku Tensei for sure. Is that like Rudius in this new world is like always able to give a perspective from his previous life and how I can do so much more than other people in this aspect, especially when it comes to magic, because I just know more. But even Rudius himself, since he's one guy, using his not very knowledgeable past information, like he wasn't going around studying a lot of sciencey shit. He's just using some very layman information to expand the possibilities of what he can do. But after talking to his literally himself from the future, he then something clicks. He's like, oh, well, maybe these more conceptual things that I've known about, like a fucking nuclear explosion, maybe I can somehow use that in my magic, right? And that's just cool to see that him already like utilizing that phrase that his older self gave him, like magic is kind of an all powerful thing, and that now he's kind of expanding the possibility of what he can do. That freedom aspect, it's almost like Luffy in a sense with Gear 5, right? Like, expanding the possibilities of what you can do when you just with the knowledge that you can do so much, I think is great. But
no, and I'm very curious to see how that develops, because we get a taste of the possible future through the diary and stuff, but it's also like, well, how is this timeline gonna go, right? So
yeah, exactly, right. It's it's there's a lot to look forward to, but I will say, I mean, and I spoke about Norn earlier. She's such a fucking cool character, man. She's diligently training the sword with Rudius too, and she's taking a beat, getting bruised and battered.
Well, I love when she's like, "Hey, Rudy, can I join the student?" Or I think it was joining the student council, and he's like, "Are you sure? Can you do that with everything else?" And then it turns out that she's already been doing it all, and she was asking Rudy as a formality, and he's like, well, fuck, what am I going to say? No, go for it. She's good. And Aisha gets her little pet, Triant, who, that was a neat conversation, just because Rudy's like, I don't know about having a monster in the house. And then Roxy comes in and is like, oh, yeah, we domesticate these in the demon continent. So, yeah, this should be fine. Just, and it's like, oh, okay. So, just...
Roxy is, now that you mention it, Roxy is usually like the mediator in a lot of these scenes. That's like, I feel like that's like her role in the household. She is like a very knowledgeable mediator. I mean, she does have a lot of years on a lot of these characters, so it makes sense. Yeah,
Well, you could one way. I only just thought about this. I swear, is because you can frame the three of them as like, Sylphie's kind of the heart. She's has like the most like sympathy and empathy, and she has the most like awareness of the people. I think. Where Roxy's the brains, she's got the most book smarts, and then Eris is, she's the bronze, she's the sword, she's the body, she's the one who stands in front of Rudy, right? As they frame at the end. So, because I remember us talking about it before, and I was like, because it's like, well, Sylphie, Roxy, and Rudy are all magic users. This party is pretty unbalanced. They need that at least one fighter, waiting for Eris to come back, and then there she is. So, but think about them and how in that aspect, it's like, oh no, they are pretty balanced, I would say. So it's they're good. We'll talk about them later, more as a trio at least.
But more to the family stuff.
Yes.
I mean, Norn's got a fan club. That's cool, I guess. Rudius is like, hey, I'm gonna keep an eye on this fan club, but they seem like decent people. They're just really like my little sister. Yeah. And then fucking Suzanne has been the wet nurse. Like, okay. I guess that's happening now.
Yeah, that was like, wait a minute. I recognize that name, and I double check, and it's like, yeah, that was the lady from the Counter Arrow, I think, or yeah.
Yeah, Counter Arrow.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So I was like, oh, that okay. But what else? There was a conversation with Linnea and Presena where I guess I cut in line because they were they're like, it was obviously a possibility, because the man god alluded to such, and they had an awareness of it, but obviously it's like, I like how they're just like, let's keep it platonic, like let's just be bros, and they're like, okay, sure, and they're cool, and they bring Rudy in with their personal stuff at the end, nice.
Nice stuff. And then even on speaking of like the wet nurse stuff with the Suzanne, even like the interaction with like Zenith and Rudius and Lucy, where Zenith looks up at Rudius and just stares at him. Rudius is like wondering why for a little bit, and all of a sudden Lucy starts crying because she needs her diaper changed. Like it's kind of just a nod that like Zenith probably knew that, and she was looking to Rudius like, hey, you changed Lucy's diaper. Like it's kind of cool. You're seeing a little bit of like, somewhere maybe deep down Zenith is still there in some capacity, right? It's just
I think it's pretty undeniable at this point, I think.
Yeah, genuinely, Zenith is my favorite part of this entire novel, like genuinely, because again, my favorite scene is mostly because of her. Well, Roxy too, but we'll get to that. I'll talk about that at the end, but at the end of talking about this volume anyway. But the marriage, the fucking Cliff and Ellen Elise, they get married. Yeah. Woo! Congrats, Cliff! Yay! And it's just really funny because like Roxy's being all awkward because she's like, oh, this is like a Millis church. She's like, oh fuck.
Yeah, and she's a diva, and she gets front row seats because she's a +1 to Rudy and Ellen. It's like, oh, well, because it's like Rudy and especially Sylphie are like connected, but it's like Roxy's just kind of. It's a little yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of cute that Ellen Elise has got to kind of bend down so Cliff can kiss her on the forehead. That's funny.
Yeah. They're nice, and then of course we later find out about the pregnancy too. So it's like, let's go, especially because Ellen Elise kind of had this like support but stay at a distance with her lineage before, but I imagine in this case it's like, well, now that she has a husband who is helping her and being so supportive of her, it's like, well, yeah, I think they're I can imagine that they're gonna like stick together and raise this kid, which is something Ellen Elisa hasn't really done as much before, so unless I'm misremembering.
No.
Okay.
I guess this is kind of important. Sarah she makes a brief return. That conversation was pretty epic. I mean, well, not epic, but it was good closure. It was a good conversation nonetheless. It was the best part about it essentially was getting insight into kind of Rudius's psychology. Basically, it's just like, hey, he has changed dramatically because Sarah, someone who knew the old Rudius, the one who lacked a lot of confidence, who was very worried about being abandoned by Eris again, is now sitting here talking. And he's talking like he would normally do to anyone in this, these days. And, Sarah's like, hey, like, that's crazy. Like, you would never divulge this information to me before. Not only that, but you're talking so casual to me. That was never an occurrence before either. And it's like, and it's all of a sudden Rudy puts into perspective. He's like, yeah, you know what? I've not only gained a lot more confidence, but I am like a lot more casual. Like I'm comfortable being who I truly am a lot more. And that's cool to see that in action and to see that realization from him, because it's something I think we've talked about this a little bit. I think not maybe 2 episodes ago, but that's cool. And then also we get we get like clarification on Rudius's type of girl too, which is essentially just like someone who saves him from a bad time.
No, I really like that part of the conversation where it's just like Sarah realizing that like, yeah, I don't think I could have been that for you at that time, and I don't think I could do that now. Like this sort of like mutual recognition of this, so like, yeah, we weren't really compatible with each other. Like Sarah was into it because this is probably like her first love, more or less, and Rudy was like, you know, in a bad place and looking for something, and they were both, you know, it just the, you know, the wrong people at the wrong time, right? And it turned out badly, and yeah.
I will say though, Rudius saying, you know, in the beginning of their little excursion. With this mission, Rudius does mention, he's like, and that's how I started this excursion with my ex-girlfriend. And I was just reading, I was like, Rudius, come on now, bro, you guys are not ever.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I didn't even think that. It's like, were you though?
I don't think you guys are ever official like that, but
yeah, because I mean, it's like, I'm pretty sure it was pretty quick, right? Like he saved her life. Yeah. They went back, and it wasn't more than a few days before they tried to, you know, have sex, and it did not turn out very well. Like, so it's like, does that really count? But hey, if he says it. So
yeah, shoulder shrug. It doesn't matter anyway. I just thought it was funny when I was reading it. But yeah. Well, speaking of funny, the fucking fight between Linnea and Persona near the end
with the commentary.
That shit goated. Yeah, because Rudius just is unrelenting with the comedic fucking like baseball style like announcer commentary.
And they're both
boxing. It's boxing. It's not baseball.
Yeah, that was about to say. It's okay.
Yeah, the whole boxing commentary is pretty funny. It's funny and kind of in almost like a sad way too, because it's like not only is this like potentially his final moment interacting with these two, but it's like this is like to these two this is like super serious.
No, and yeah, like I do like how like everyone kind of gives Rudy a little shit for it, like, you know, Nanahoshi does, and then like you're like, I think after we talks to Linny after she's like, you were having fun apparently. You know, because yeah, they let Rudy in on their turning point, right? Like, you know, and he's just kind of, you know, he's Rudy.
He's doing what he does. He's doing what he does. But the funniest part about that, and I love this, is how, because they're Linnea and Persona, they didn't think far enough ahead to think about the scheduling for the carriages, so they ended up riding together. After they had this epic parting where they're like, see you around, cupcake, see you around, and it's just like, and then they're like fighting in the carriage. I thought that was I was like, when I finished the chapter, I was like, Ryufujin, you fucking go. That's the perfect end for these two, for this like school, you know, section for them. That's great. It's great. Absolute cinema, you know.
And then just the conflict itself was kind of neat, because it's like, you know, they're basically fighting between like one of them gets a stable life but a restricted life as a leader, you know, with a heavy responsibility, but ultimately like, you know, stability and comfort. Where the other one is free, and they can do whatever they want, but they also can fail in any possible way, right? So, you know, and God knows what can happen. So it's just, I thought it was interesting, because obviously like, part of me is like, freedom, fuck responsibility, but it's also like, well, in this world where you know, I mean, I do think either of them would succeed no matter what, right? But you know, I you know, understand, like they have, they've been raised with this in mind, so it makes sense that they would, you know, they put their all into it, right? They didn't throw the fight, because you know, so yeah, it was cool.
Was cool indeed. I agree. And then you know, we got Nanahoshi. She was watching the fight, but you know, they succeeded. Stage 2, I think it's stage 2, right? They summoned the watermelon.
It says, I think that it says the chapter title is Phase 4.
Phase 4. Fuck. Okay, well, I'm too behind, I guess. Jesus,
it's
sorry,
okay. Well, she's 7.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, true.
That's just a dumb joke.
Numbers are funny.
Well, so my personal connection with the chapter was because they summoned a watermelon, and as they find out, it's Rudy speculates that it's a well, yeah. So I don't like watermelons. I don't think they taste very good.
What?
So him shitting on them being not California watermelons not being sweet was like, thank you, holy shit. Like I just
Perugius are tripping. Okay.
Well, maybe you're not eating California watermelons because apparently they're less sweet.
I would imagine I am.
I know, but it's like I don't know. I just haven't had one that tasted good. So
really,
yeah.
Interesting. I love watermelon. And
Okay.
I would imagine pretty much all the watermelon I've ever eaten comes from California, since most of our food, even here, comes from California. I think California, from what I understand, produces like 70-something%.
Oh yeah, that's
the
probably
United States is like agricultural. It's like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a crazy percentage. I'm probably also eating California watermelon, and I like it. So yeah.
Okay.
But then again, I'm one for liking mildly sweet things. Like
Yeah, I was about to say because I
blackberries.
eat a lot more sugar than you, so for me it probably just isn't that sweet. But then again, I also know people who do like watermelon and also eat lots of other like sweet stuff that you wouldn't eat. So I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, well, you see, the seedless variety. So
that's how they realize it's like, oh yeah, this world can't have produced this. So
yeah.
Though speaking of sweet food, Roxy has a sweet tooth, which is cute. I don't know. There's so many like good like Roxy scenes because it's like I was gonna say because it's like I do like I was even thinking about how like okay we like Eris the best because she's stupid and great. And I love her.
I like Eris the best for a lot of reasons, but
there's other reasons.
We might even get into that.
No, I just think it's funny because she is really stupid and it's really funny. Yes. But anyway, but it's like and Ronan has Sylphie as his favorite. But it's like so there's that representation. But I just don't happen to know anyone who likes Roxy the best. It's like she's good. That's the thing is because I know she's the most popular based on my anime list and their favorites. Yeah. Like I think she's, but I just haven't met anyone who likes her the most, and it's like, and I mean I like her, but she's also my least favorite of the three still, even though she gets so much good stuff this reading. But it's like
it's crazy too because like whenever I go on Twitter, especially when season 2 was airing, you could not get away from like Roxy clips, like the one where they're in the labyrinth and she's asking him out on like a date in the labyrinth. There's the voice actress how she delivers Rudy is like really cute. Everyone was going fucking crazy over it. I saw this image spreading everywhere where it was like Roxy, but then there was like a blue hat on top of her head, and it's like. It's something like, please be patient, I have autism or something. And then another one, like literally the most popular Mushoku Tensei gif became like Rudius, like, after Paul dies, he's like sitting on the bed.
Okay, I was wondering if you were going to mention that one because that's one of the only ones I've seen that one.
Roxy, I feel like is the most popular girl out of the three just from like community stuff. But then when I like talk to people like you, like Eris is your favorite. I know a guy who was reading Mushoku Tensei that I was following on Twitter. And I would reply to him, and he knows who I am now, I guess. I guess he's checked out my content because I did mention something.
And you did a video too, so yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess so. So he knew what I was because he did mention, he was like, I had a certain take on this Mushoku Tensei character, this certain thing, and then he replied, "Rare HotBoySpicy L," and I thought that was funny, with like a gif of like Jinbei crying. I thought that was funny. I was like, oh shit, he knows who I am. But what is his name on Twitter? He's because Eris is also his favorite.
Okay.
And I love him even more for that. And then also my girlfriend. I've talked to her a little bit about Mushoku Tensei, and the only thing she had to say was like, "Yeah, I dropped after the first course season 1 because I was like, I didn't like the magic stuff as much." But then she was like, "But I love Eris," and I was like, "Okay, I'll take it. I love Eris too, so I feel you."
That's great. Okay, because I was wondering, it's like, oh yeah, so it's like, yeah, we're not. I guess again, speaking of like specific people, we just like even though she is popular, it's like. I don't know, something like the people who specifically are interested in our content, I guess, or would listen to this podcast, or you would find on Twitter and engage with. don't like Roxy as much. I don't know. It's weird. I was just wondering.
Yeah, I just have never met an actual.
Because I would be curious as
Roxy.
to like what someone who like, because like with I mean yeah, she's good. She's very cute. Like she like the fucking the wedding present, right? Like when they do the birthday party for Norn and Aisha, and they come up with that, and then like Sylvie and Rudy are like, hey, we're gonna surprise Roxy. Like she's gonna be in on surprising Norn and Aisha, but we're gonna surprise her, and she's not gonna expect it. And it went off perfectly, and she had that how they frame it is like, oh, this is her, like Sylvie accepted Roxy immediately, but this is Roxy accepting that she is accepted, right? And finally really feeling like part of this marriage, right? So and it was really good.
and this party section is just my favorite part of the novel, just because not only the Zenith stuff literally was bringing a tear to my eye. I was like, oh, this is like actually like I was surprised at how emotional it was making me. I was like, oh my god, like this is hitting me. The reactions to it and stuff, and then like Lilith going, oh madam, and then I was like, oh Lilia. And then and then like, oh man, and then I wouldn't hear about this until later, but this is the first time Roxy felt like Sylvie truly accepted her. I was like, oh man, this is such a good family scene, so fucking goated. It was brilliant. And that's not even like, we haven't mentioned the whole fishing scene, like that stuff was really cute, like Roxy and Norn bonding over the fishing.
Oh yeah,
them
really loving it and wanting to keep going, and it's like, no, we got to go back for the birthday party that I'm not supposed to tell you about.
And then even like the small little tidbits, like when they're going to Roxy teaches both Sylphie and Rudius the king level, electric or no lightning. Electric is what Rudius.
Rudy adapts it based on his understanding of electricity, right?
And yeah. All those interactions are fucking great there. I love that stuff. And I mean, even when it comes to the technique, how it's literally just using that saint level. I don't remember what it's called. The saint level spell. The preliminary. The
that's
saint
right.
level
Yeah,
spell
there's
is
the control weather or control it, or the one that he learned before with the storm, and that was just a prelude to the lightning.
Literally, like most of that, the reason why it's there is essentially to be a prelude to that king tier spell, lightning. So it's just cool to learn all this, and even like the inside information from Rudius, where it's like, oh, this is very similar to how it feels when I'm pushing my stone cannon to its limit, which is basically just like you just need a lot of mana to do this, basically.
Yes.
So a lot of people probably can't even do this, inherently. Because they just lack the mana.
I think they even talk about that with the classes at the school, with how like with the advanced ones, it's like. Yeah, like just because of mana capacity, like some people like literally cannot even do these spells, right? So,
and then we get insight into just how much more Rudius has, especially compared to someone like Sylvie, who is known to have a high mana capacity, where she tried and failed one time, but then when she tried and failed for the second time, she could not go anymore. She was like, so, cool stuff. And what else on this volume? I feel like there's one more thing I'm missing. Maybe not.
Oh yeah. There was Ellen Elise priming Sylvie and Roxy for the threesome, and
that's what it was. Yes.
I fucking
yes,
call.
Thank you.
I have more things to
Thank
mention.
you.
I was just happening to the first one. That's really funny. But
that's what the fucking threesome. Hell yeah.
I don't know, her just being really supportive of Rudy is really, because obviously it's like, yeah, she cares about Roxy and Sylvie, like of course she would, so make sure everybody's happy.
I make sure Rudius is even more happy because he gets his threesome on. And,
I was even thinking because they set up there's hold on, where was it? I just saw it in my notes. Okay, so Hulk was his right arm, I think, and Hercules was his left. They mentioned at some point. So I was like, well, Sylvie stands at his right, and Roxy at his left. So I was like, I don't know. I was just thinking about that and how it's like he gives his arms names, but they also have a designated like woman of his wife, so to speak.
Hulk owns Sylvie, Hercules owns Roxy, and Eris owns both Hercules and Hulk. I just thought of that because He puts one in his right, puts one in his left, but then when Eris comes around, she pins both those arms to the ground. She
Yeah,
owns
well,
those,
see, I was
those
wondering
arms.
how like a foursome would work. Because that just doesn't seem like feasible right now. Because Eris is literally too much for Rudy. And like so, it's like he can manage with Sylphie and Roxy, but like Eris he can't even manage alone. Like he needs to work really hard to manage all three of them, I guess, in one go. So, but anyway, that's
That's our girl.
problem
That's
for
our
the
girl.
future.
Indeed. We'll see. We'll see if that ever foursome comes. We'll see if that foursome ever comes about. But
Yeah. Let's see what else.
I don't think I have anything else to say. I think I covered.
Aisha knowing about his hidden altar in the secret room.
That was funny.
When using that to blackmail him, that was great.
That's funny. Yeah.
Let's see. A follow up to the Norn fan club is like Rudy thinking about like, oh, Norn might get married at some point. I'll have to get ready to punch that motherfucker when I see him. Like he's already like he's such a dad to Norn, even though he's not her dad. Yeah. It's great. But she doesn't have anyone else as a father figure, so it's like, and I talked about it last time, where it's like, oh yeah, he's getting really paternal with these two. So yeah. And then I think that's most of it. I feel like I guess this was more of a personal connection, but during the party, I remember Rudy like recognizing that like Zenith really liked parties and presents and stuff, and I had a bit of a personal connection there because my mom, who passed away 4 years ago, also really liked Christmas. So I remember thinking about that, and like Zenith basically being an app. She's gone, right? She's alive, but she's dead, right? Like she's in a weird like flux state, but it's just having that connection to like Rudy feeling this loss about this specific thing that reminds me of my mom, and I was like, oh no, that hurts a little.
Damn.
So
damn.
Yeah. Whoops.
Because I was saying Zenith made me feel the most in this reading, and I would imagine that might be the same. For
it was more of a. I mean, yeah, it's more like it reminded me of something else, but it's still like, it was still like one weirdly specific personal connection. Like as far as those go, I still haven't found a media that hit me closer and deeper on that specific level with my mom. Since like 2 months after I watched Sword Art Online Mother's Rosario arc in season 2, and it has so many things about it that are just so specific. Like I was fucked up watching those episodes because it was only 2 months after she died, and it just like brought me right back. But this was just a little thing, but it was still, I don't know, it was I noticed it. It hurt. It felt a little pain. Oh yeah, and there was also a little bit with Aisha and the cake, where they note how she doesn't like sweet things as much, kind of like Paul, where Norn and Rudy liked it, but like Aisha's not Paul's biological daughter, but she is more like him, right? And it was just a little like, oh, that's nice, a little bit of him carried on in her in a sense. So neat little thing.
Oh, you meant just to showcase that she is Paul's biological
exactly.
daughter. Okay, yeah.
Oh wait, I'm fucking stupid.
You misspoke. I think you just misspoke.
You're right. It was just cute. Yeah, I misspoke. I'm dumb.
No, you're good. What you're saying still follows, is that like, because it's just it's a display that she is Paul's daughter, right?
You're right.
And Lilia says as much, and I think that and then that even implores Rudius to think, oh wait, Lilia has really changed in her philosophy on in her treatment to Aisha, basically. But then Aisha immediately follows that up with, but don't forget, you're subservient to Rudius in the household. And it's like, okay, no, she's just same old Lilia. Same old Lilia after all. Never mind. But I think that scene, what it does, I don't think it's like a return to form or anything at the end. I think it's genuinely like that scene is supposed to display that there has been some change even from Lilia's treatment to Aisha, because I think of Rudius and how he interacts with Aisha. Obviously, Lilia sees it all the time, and that is now rubbing off on her, and even degrading that duty she feels for the family in regards to how it extends to Aisha, and how she sees that, and she's so struck by it on an emotional level that it even eats away at those obligations she feels that even her daughter needs to follow. She's unconsciously, she's like, oh, Aisha is Rudius's little sister, right? I think that's so great. That family stuff, man, it's special. It's one of the things that makes Mushoku Tensei very special. I genuinely think that it's cool.
And then I had one more thing that I wanted to say, but I can't. What was? Oh, it was when he was talking about like, oh, I don't think I'm going to be picking up any more wives, and I was like, oh, you like saying what I was saying before about like you're fucking wrong, but then him realizing it's like, well, actually, like he at least he admits it, right? Where it's like that there might be one more, only one more. I swear, I promise. Please, please, please believe me this time. And it's and Sylvie and Rock's like, we'll figure it out. Let's cross that bridge when we get to it, and they get to it later. But anyway, so yeah, that's all I have to say about the core volume. After that, there is the extra chapter with the Isolde and Rada at the Sword Sanctum.
This is the second best part of Volume 13 after the party stuff. Okay, this shit peak. Okay, this shit is so good. The dynamic between Isolde, Eris, and what. I know her name.
Nina?
So no one, do not tell me I know her name.
I already said
Nina.
it.
Nina. No, I didn't hear you. Good. Maybe I did, but I...
No, Discord just didn't pass it over, apparently, because I said it.
Yeah, there was like a... That's all. That's so,
I trust you. There's no reason you would lie. Like, it's not worth enough to lie about, right? So
yeah. I did remember her name, guys. I promise. No, because I do love that they're fucking even the power dynamic. It's fucking Nina loses to Eris. Eris loses to Isolde, and then Isolde loses to Nina. This is so fucking cool. And then they have to like train together and stuff. But then they like actually grow. All three of them grow like a friendship. And not only that, Nina gains the friendship that she never thought was possible with Eris. Because at this point, it's only been this like one-way kind of sort of
rivalry,
for Eris,
and
Nina and rivalry,
right? Because again, Eris isn't actually looking at Nina; she's just fighting her often, right? Where Nina's the one who's looking at Eris. So
But then, especially after seeing Nina beat someone that Eris can't beat, obviously now she's looking Nina's direction, and they're even like communicating with each other. She's even listening to Nina's advice when it comes to like Ruijerd.
The fucking interaction they have about like your boyfriend won't like you if you're smelly, and she's like, nuh-uh, he huffs my clothing, all my sweaty clothes all the time. And it's like,
he's a pervert,
and Nina's like,
pervert.
He's just naughty, and it's like that he's a pervert, Eris. He's a fucking pervert, but then like the way they talk about like the reading the emotion, and how like Eris can calm herself down by thinking about Rudy, and that becomes her like Rudy continues to be her strength, but this time in a way like not just from her like anger and resentment towards Orsted, but now her love and desire to like be with Rudy, and it's like it's just very nice.
And, man, and how that extends later on, and we'll get to that because that scene where Eris gives Galfarian her answer is a little bit surprising too, and how that escalates into how she even interacts with Orsted later. Eris is so fucking cool. Eris' development is so good. This is like one of the big reasons I love Eris. She's just the best girl. But anyway, I love the dynamic between Nina, Isolde, and Eris. They're all badass women. I love them so much. Great, epic. Thank you, Rifujin, for giving us 3 badass swordsman females. I appreciate it.
I did notice that it's like, they're all these specific like characters at this similar skill level at this are they're all girls at this of the same age, which is interesting that so many we see all these lady swordsmen, so it's cool.
And then Water God Rada too.
Yes,
she's an old woman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is nice.
And,
cool lady.
Yeah. It's and it's interesting too because Rada shows her mastery over the blade by not even having to do anything to note that like, oh, there's no way Eris can beat Isolde. Like she already before it happened, she verbalizes it to Galfarian. She's like, there's like she's not gonna lose. Like this bitch cannot beat Isolde. But then what she says before, where she's looking at Nina and she's appraising Nina and saying, oh, Nina is like she's good. She is acknowledging Nina, and that's kind of a hint at Nina being able to beat Isolde. So it's cool. The dynamic is cool. But
I also like the little scene where Galfalian's like, okay, hey, Isolde, fight Eris. And Nina's like, can I fight her too? Like, don't forget me, Dad. So
and he's like, of course, I always intended that to be the case.
Yeah, totally.
Totally don't have favorites for, yeah.
I thought that was
I don't
funny.
know, by the way, I don't know why that because I know in the light novel it's Isolde with a D, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Isolt with a T. Even
I mean,
on the
that
wiki,
might be
it's
a
Isolt.
way. Well, that might. I don't know what the original
Yeah.
katakana would be, but it's yeah, I don't know, because well, even just like because you say Golfarion, but the novel says Golfalion with an L. Or I hear Golfarion.
And the wiki also says Golfarion too,
that's
because
that's like katakana. It's like it can be the thing about katakana in general. Like I was even running into this issue because I was watching a show while learning Japanese called Yadaman, and the main character is called Jon, but it's like the official the fan translated subs translated it as Jean, and in the Kingsfield games. The first game translates his name as John Alfred Forrester, but then the third game has a statue that calls him Jean Alfred. So it's like these names sound identical in katakana, and they were spelled the same way. So which one is which is basically open to context and interpretation. That's just in general how katakana work, right? So it's a matter of like, because sometimes the author will have an official stance. Did you read Fairy Tail when it was publishing? Or watch it?
Yes, I read, but I started reading it very late.
Okay, see, because in the early fan translations, there were different names, because eventually Hiro Mashima said, no, these are the names, and then they swapped over. And so some of, Luxus became Laxus, there was Mistogon, because originally the fan translation just called a mist gun, like the English word that it's supposed to be evoking, but then they changed it to a more like Romaji katakana reading from Hiro Mashima, like as if it was like spread, kind of like more of an English in a way. So it's like so that happens sometimes. So with the case of these names, it's a question of these are and sometimes you'll have different translations. Like I believe there's a light novel series called Isekai Smartphone. And there isn't consistency between the light novels and the anime because they have different people translating them, and there isn't like an in-house requirement to use from the rights or whatever to use the other translation. So so stuff like that happens. So in this case, it's like the wiki probably sticks with the fan translated names because that's what people know for so long, right? Where they didn't change over to the official ones, So yeah. Because these are the official English ones for the light novel. The anime might go with different spellings. I don't remember.
The
The
reason I even I'll say Golfarion and then Isolt is because I've read these first and foremost.
Yeah, sure. That's
web novels.
Exactly.
So
I'm going to say them as I'm reading them. Yeah. So as long as we know who we're talking about, it's fine, right? So yeah.
But I don't. Golfarion versus Golfarion, don't care. But Isolt versus Isolde. Isolde sounds just weird to me. I'm sorry. Isolt sounds better. I don't. It just does. It rolls off the tongue.
Well, I mean, Isolde is actually like a name too. So like an actual name. It's not a common name, but it is Isolde with the D is actually it is a name though.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. Shit.
Not a modern one, but it is it. So. But yeah, again, I don't know what the original intent is, and so my case.
Well, then it's bad. Fuck, it's probably Isolde. Then I guess it's probably Golfalion too.
But
maybe I need to.
Well, Golfalion, that's like it's an RL situation where it's like it really isn't. It sounds similar enough to a Japanese ear that it really doesn't matter. Like there's a Kamen Rider series that uses the wordplay between like laser and razor. And there's like three different puns, like it's laser, but it's also razor as in the motorcycle, but also razor as in the blade. So it's like a three-way pun that you can't really translate into English, but and it works because they're the same, right? L and R. But in general, when it comes to the translation and meaning, it's like as long as we understand who we're talking about, it's fine. And for me, it's like I'll only like change it if I don't like it or because usually if I'm comfortable with it, I generally won't change it unless there's a really good reason to change it. And one for me I mention a lot is the Celestial Dragons is what I used to call them. Now I call them the Heavenly Dragons because their name is meant to the three names are meant to relate: Heavenly Dragon, Heavenly Demon, and Heavenly Tribute. But the officials will go Celestial Dragon, Heavenly Demon, Heavenly Tribute. And I was actually pretty bothered when we found out that Doflamingo was a Heavenly Dragon formerly because I didn't. in Japanese, I would have noticed that, or had a better chance of noticing it, because they both use ten and the same kanji, which ten, like the first half of tenshi, like angel, it's like it meant to denote holiness, right? But they translated it differently, so it was this big plot twist when we knew both Heavenly Dragon and Heavenly Demon before that twist happened, before that reveal happened. So I remember being like, well, these should have been translated at the same time. So I did go out of my way to go against the grain when it comes to Heavenly Dragon. Not because I disagree, like, I'm fine with other people using it, I just have a personal reason for me wanting to use Heavenly Dragon because I want these terms to be consistent, and I just happen to prefer Heavenly Dragon to Celestial Demon. Like, that's really the one I like. I don't really, that doesn't sound right to me. Where I'm Celestial Dragon and Heavenly Dragon are both fine to me, I just, there's the meaning there of like these terms should be consistent, so I personally want to make sure they're consistent, so but I'm not going to force that on other people, obviously. I'll explain my reasoning, but I'm not going to say you should all be saying Heavenly Dragon, even Funimation and Viz, because it's like, well, that's a lot, they're not going to change it. Well,
I mean, I'll tell you what, I mean, at the very least I'll be saying Isold from now on, especially if that's
if that's what you feel
if that's an actual name, that's probably what it's probably supposed to be when romanized. So, and I'm perfectly fine with making that. Yeah, because
I
try to go with what's more correct when I'm naming characters rather than even what I personally prefer. So, I'll probably just call her that. Gal, whatever, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. I don't mind. Like you've been saying Faria and I've been saying Folion this whole time, and it's not worth. Like, oh no,
that's been the case with multiple. I mean, you say Ghislaine, I say Ghislaine.
Like, there you go. Yeah, sure.
It doesn't matter. Okay.
Anyway, I don't think I have more to say about that chapter. Yeah, so let's move on to Big Man Perugius. Well, the volume starts off making me sad because Roxy's like, I'm gonna go to the Magic Sky Castle, and they're like, you can't go to the Sky Castle because we're racist. And she's like,
bitch.
Okay, I guess I'll go home then. And I'm like, Roxy, no!
Get the fuck out of here, bitch.
I can't wait till that gets animated, and all the Roxy fans are like, no! I hope they make it like extra sad, like have her like tears starting to form, and just like, okay, I guess I'll go home. It's like,
by the way, Perugius is another character that I might be saying wrong too. I know there's the U in between there, but I make the U silent because Perugius just sounds cool to me.
Oh, that's okay.
Perugius doesn't sound as cool to me.
That's fair.
I've always said Perugius. That's like always
because I'm pretty sure Perugius is probably just more faithful to the katakana, but obviously it's like it's katakana. You can cut off like a popular one that I remember is there's Final Fantasy VII. There's Aerith, which was the official translation, but then some people saw the original katakana. It's like, oh, it's actually Arisu, but it's actually again it's a representation of a Western name. So again, it's more flexible as to what you can translate it as. So in that case I'm just saying it as I read it, so but
doesn't matter, but this shit is already off the bat crazy because and I say that because there's like already some like intrigue, like besides for Roxy being banished because racist against demons. Already, by the way, really really cool introductory characterization for Perugius. But not only that, when Rudius and Sylphie are even trying to get through the castle, there's white dust coming off of them. What the fuck? Later we learn though that they both have the Laplace aspect.
Well, and they also mention how when they're teleporting, the space that they're like moving through resembles the man god's space, and Rudy's though I was going to also mention something more that I noticed because in the first you had the illustration with Zanaba being like, "Whoa!" I'm looking at it right now.
Oh wait! I'm so sorry. I have to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Because it's related to that. Because I've been thinking. Because that's another thought I had. Yeah, when I was reading at the time, is that were they being sprinkled in white solely because they were the only two out of this whole entire party that actually got displaced? As in that they've already been through that void.
Hold on. I think, I'm thinking of the group that went there, and they did already go through the displacement incident. But then, if that's what causes the spark, is that what you mean?
Yeah, is that because I was thinking it's that or that they both have the Laplace.
I think it's the Laplace aspect because my reasoning is because like what makes the displacement incident different from regular teleportation? in regards to like the whites. Like why would that cause a sort of like marker on them in regards to the regular teleportation?
But then again, what does that have to do with the man god? Because the Laplace aspect is independent of the.
Well, no, I mentioned the man god specifically was like when they were being teleported, like in that interim period where they looked around and noticed
the man god is relevant because of what Navarre, what is her name? She asked. Her question's not related to Laplace. It's does the name man god mean anything?
I thought that was just because Orsted mentioned not wanting to get involved in the man god, but he's aware of him, and I imagine he was just like asking them out of because maybe they're that's a good question because I didn't.
Perugius. No. So it's immediately when they're entering in and the white shit is coming off of them.
Oh, okay.
What Silvari, I think is her name, immediately turns around and asks them that question. Perugius doesn't ask it. She asks that question.
Okay.
Yeah, in that moment. And then Sylvia says no and Ruijerd says no too. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out because if it is the Laplace aspect, well then how does that connect? How's the man god and Laplace, how do they connect? Because the only revelation we got from Orsted wasn't to do with Laplace and man god being connected. It was the fighting god or fighting god and man god being connected.
Because the implication seems the fighting god was a man god disciple, apostle, or whatever the term is, and he fought Laplace. So or was it?
It's interesting. I still don't know quite because I don't think that was ever revealed specific what actually made that happen. Anyway, whatever.
Because when I thought back to it, I was thinking that it's like, he's just probing them about the man god because because it's I don't know. But then now thinking about it, it's like, that doesn't really add up. So okay.
You know what? No. Maybe it is. Regardless of the man god comment, I would imagine it has to be Laplace because of what Perugius says later. When Perugius gets that information from her, he looks at Rudius and goes, "Your next child, let me name it."
Oh yeah.
And I feel like that is an indirect way of saying I want to make sure your child isn't the reincarnation of Laplace. So show me your fucking kid.
Okay.
As soon as it's got to be due to
because he specifically you're right because he specifically asks like your next kid with Sylphie, right? Not his next kid in general because it can't be with Roxy because that would be a demon and they wouldn't be allowed up there unless he broke that rule to name. So I'm pretty sure it was with Sylphie's kid specifically, right?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, but anyway, to go back a little bit, is what I was going to point out is because you have the illustration with Zanaba, and then you have Silverell and Rudy. What I know because I noticed that, and I compared it to the Lilina and Persena fight one, and I guess with excuse me, wow, the Shirotaka's artwork, where I feel like. His art style is kind of like it's more or less as good as it's gonna get. But I thought, did he really do cartoony illustrations like that before, or am I just misremembering? Like where?
He did.
Oh, he did. Never mind. Okay, I don't remember them.
The one with Kirishika, like even in the introduction where she's a little chibi and she's tied up. Well, that was this volume's reading though. Was it tied up because I'm saying, is that what you mean?
No, yeah, I mean that style. Like, were illustrations like that in volumes 12 or before? Like more deformed chibi styles, like
chibi style,
like in this like the Linnea and Persena fight has the more like they have more simplified exaggerated expressions.
I literally volume 1. I'm remembering. There's a chibi Rudius doing magic. I'm pretty.
Okay. That's not just because he's small.
No, I literally think it's chibi art style. Okay, but I might be retarded. So
because it would be chapter 3 maybe. Hold on, I'm looking for it myself. You're right. Okay, never mind. I take it back. Yeah, he did it in volume 1. Okay, I was just like noticing because I haven't seen.
Oh, he did. Okay, yeah.
You're right. Because I did look and it's not just because it's small. Okay, never mind. I was just I felt like I hadn't seen it in a while, so I was like, he's experimenting with his art a little bit more and doing something that he like. But then it's like, no, that's not the case. Never mind. I take it back. Ignore me.
I will say though, in regards to even the cover art, you saying it's as good as it's going to get. At like the special releases that are coming out, like Redundancy and stuff, I've seen the cover art of those, and it is in my opinion, noticeably better. So
okay, well, I mean, I don't think there's going to be as many leaps as like the leaps that I'm thinking about the leaps that were happening around like volume 6 and 4. You know,
yeah,
like,
we've already hit the last the biggest, the biggest.
Okay, yeah. Okay, but yeah, it gets even better. That's good. Okay, that's yeah. But anyway, so one thing that happens early on into this volume is I think I'm really interested in seeing where Ariel's character goes, because like I was thinking about how I think I was comparing it to like other things I've been reading at the same time, but like the fact that, because I feel like thus far, because she left Ashura and she's been in Renoa for a while, and there she's sort of like the top dog in her field of like, you know, social hierarchy and that sort of court skills, right, of like the way in volume 13 when she was like, I want a fruit, but not any fruit, that fruit, Sarah and Rudy, you go get it, right? Like she subtly arranged a situation, subtly relatively speaking, of course, that she could get Rudy and Sarah, like that sort of those social skills. I just like, and I thought it was interesting because obviously she comes to, you know, fucking Perugius, and she's like, I'm gonna make connections with one of the strongest people in the world, and he's like, bitch, you ain't shit. And he just like completely renders her transparent and sort of like reveals her to be empty in a sense, and just in certain ways, and just he is completely like immune to her skills, basically. And I just thought that was interesting in regards to, like, I'm curious as to how her character is going to go and like how that's going to affect her going forward, because, you know, it's like she hasn't been around like competent nobility and people who are aware of these kind of, because he's very aware of the nobility and is very fucking sick of it, you know. So he just has she's just has no effect. Like he likes Zanaba the best because he's the most devout appreciator of the arts, and it reminds him of an old friend of his, and it's like, yeah, Zanaba, you're a cool dude, you know. But Ariel's she ain't got nothing for him, so I just thought that was interesting to consider.
The potential of her future character, and especially development. I mean, we do get at least a hint of that in this volume, given the question, right? He levies to her for her to later answer. So she does have something to hold on to for now that she could maybe answer in the future. So she is obviously, that is, you know, classic story. It's a promise, right? It's a promise that we're going to get more good stuff from Ariel. So that at least is good. And this is part and parcel of what makes Mushoku Tensei great. All these, you know, even minorly important characters, even Luke, right? Like we get a little bit of that in this volume, multiple times, in fact. The characters that you don't even think are going to be that important end up being, well, you know, there's hints and shit. They might be way more important in the future. That's one of the things that makes Mushoku Tensei great, because none of these characters are wasted ever. And I love that about this story. It is truly the fantasy epic in the best possible way. My favorite, like classic, quote unquote, classical fantasy epic is 100% Mushoku Tensei. And I know I haven't read a lot of them, and I haven't seen a lot of them, but I don't care. I highly doubt there's going to be any super more, you know, classic fantasy story, you know, with elves and all that shit. Magic that even comes close to my affection for Mushoku Tensei, but maybe I can be proven wrong one of these days, but I doubt it. But where was I? What was I saying before I went on to talk about how Mushoku Tensei's whatever? I was talking about Ariel and characters and stuff. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why it's good. Where were we though in the chronology?
I mean, I was looking at my notes and we're getting close to like Ella and Elisa stuff revealed.
Oh yeah, which you did talk a little bit about earlier.
Yeah, right? I did briefly bring it up, but because we find out more details, like she was apparently giving birth to mana crystals, and you know, then like she went into more detail about her backstory that she was hinting at before. So I guess like the timeline that I was speculating about, like, because I imagine that happening after the fact, but it seems like it actually happened before, and then she became an adventurer. So yeah.
And you know, in terms of like the audience they have with Perugius, I love the little like the interaction with him, and the first one he homes in on is Rudius, because he's like, I had a hard time getting you here. wonder if you have an aspect that makes that's the,
yeah. Well, even later, just there was a little thing when I think like Rudy asks him like he was wondering if there's a way he can get stronger. And instead of help, he's like, no, I'm going to give you this so you can summon me instead. And I was like, oh, I wonder why he doesn't want Rudy to get stronger. And then, of course, we see later what can happen when Rudy gets stronger. You know, and he's even like, future Rudy's even like, I don't want to really kill Perugius yet. But it's like, Jesus Christ. Oh, God.
Like, what the fuck, bro?
Yeah, he's just
he's a completely different man. But,
yeah.
That stuff is...
So, and then that helped frame the... he doesn't want this man to get stronger. Like he's just, you know, hard, like more, you know, stern with Rudy, I guess, you know, and just be more wary of him, right? Because and with very good reason. So as we can see, so
I mean we'll get to that later. Actually, I was
that's
say
fine.
More about Rudius and his power, but and then I have to mention in this whole reading, you know, speaking of characters that get a lot. Zanoba and Cliff really get some cool fucking shit in Volume 14 specifically. Zanoba with him using his appreciation for the arts and just his mannerisms as nobility to just be the most out of all of the group. He has the most rapport with Perugius. He is like really he becomes the bridge other than Nanahoshi in getting on Perugius's good side. Which is good for Ariel, especially for getting that, you know, that a hint of an answer to help her on her path. But so Zanoba is getting cooler stuff, but then like even that like that little moment with Cliff when they're in the demon continent where everyone is like ignoring Kirishka. And he goes up and like he doesn't know it's her, right?
Yeah.
Whereas and it's a stark contrast with Rudius because Rudius is explicitly told by the man god, go here, do this, and you will get something out of it. Like, no, there's nothing in it for
Cliff's just
a
nice dude, and he does what Rudy... Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very good.
It's good shit. And then even more good shit is that, like, you know, he thinks later on, he's like, oh, you know, I feel like I'm a burden to these people that I care about. So what does he do? The selfish action's actually rather selfless because he's not thinking, I want this demon eye as repayment because there's something in it for me. He's like, you know, I was the weakest link here, and you know, I had, you know, they pushed me for the position of, you know, warning Perugius and the rest, just well because I was so weak because I couldn't do anything else, like dead weight otherwise, right? So he goes and gets the demon eye, the eye of identification to make himself more useful. Cliff is getting really great stuff. Zanoba with him. Zanoba, how he fucking seamlessly maneuvers in the Ruijerd figurine in the conversation. And how he doesn't flinch when Perugius gets super mad at him because he's got that plan. He knows exactly what to say because he remembers that Ruijerd is one of the figures that helped him defeat Laplace. And he's like, oh, but you owe this man a great debt. He's like, oh, is that Ruijerd? He's like, yep. So it's like, oh, shit. it's like, oh.
Chess master. It's also so like, and I'm thinking about the contrast between Zanoba and Ariel because they're both nobility, but obviously like Ariel wants to take the crown, Zanoba doesn't give a shit, and yet Zanoba is like outmaneuvering her and he's accomplishing what Ariel wants to, right?
Exactly.
And because he wasn't focused, like he achieves her goal without trying because that's not his focus in a sense, right?
He's also just being genuine. Right. This is a passion.
Exactly, which Ariel has she is able to do that, but in with the scene with Fitz behind closed doors where she's like, because she's gay, right, and she and that that was, which it was animated obviously too, but that's her true self, but in reality she's probably gonna have to get married and share an heir with so yeah, unfortunate, but her being like not being genuine is part of like her. The nobility and stuff, right? But it's also, it doesn't win her over with Perugius at all.
You can see right through her. He's got the wisdom and just the know-how with the Ashura nobility to see right through her. But
so good,
but you could even see because of that respect he has for Zanoba and that rapport they've built, he allots at least that much to Ariel, given that she is, in the same party as him, and so you could see him as even being the bridge for that relationship to maybe develop between Ariel and Perugius. But That conversation, by the way, is really fucking cool. Like, Perugius is like, this is another. There's so many great characters in Mushoku Tensei. Perugius is just one of them. He's just such a fascinating character. He's lived so long, and his idea of what a king is, and like the king he knew, the best king he ever knew, was like this cowardly guy who hated fights, hated confrontation, ran away all the time, hated the idea of responsibility. And by all metrics, he was a terrible leader. But there's one quality he had, just one, that made him the best candidate for a king. That's so interesting. Like, what is it? I want to hear this answer from Ariel. Like, this is really, genuinely, I don't remember. So this will be a surprise for me, too. So I cannot wait to get more on that stuff, because that whole conversation, it's so fascinating. Perugius is super fascinating. But that I mean that's later on in the novel too.
That is
we're kind of going out of
it's
order,
okay.
But, I mean, another fascinating thing is just his abilities in general when he comes in to fucking serve the Atofe, her just desserts,
Yes.
That shit, that's some cool shit. But we'll get to that. We'll talk
because obviously what takes them there is Nanahoshi. Like, she was getting sick. And like, I do like the focus on her, like, and her talking about like trying to take care of her health, and like her isolation. Wasn't just because she hates people and she hates this world. It's also because, like, if I get sick, I'm dead, because these people don't fucking understand medicine. But then it turns out that her body is just fundamentally incompatible with this world of mana, and Rudy casting a spell on her wasn't really, like, it made it worse. It wasn't really helping, because she has a mana sickness, and they have to figure that out, right? So that was framing like certain things that about her character that had been built up. I guess did we get the her eating rice? Was that later? Or was
that was this volume.
Okay, gotcha. Oh yeah, that's right, because they used Aramanfi to that was good.
To gather the ingredients.
I remember now. Yeah.
That was sweet. She was crying. She was enjoying the meal, even though it sucked compared to what they had in Japan.
Mm-hmm. Still a little taste of home.
Yep.
But then we get
they get the revelation they don't get a revelation. They get the revelation of what it is, the sickness that it is, but they don't have a cure. It's something that hasn't been necessary to even think about a cure for
so long,
many years, and so Rudius is like, well, fuck, who do I know that knows this? He's like, wait, there's a certain demon emperor that has been around a long fucking time. She's kind of dumb, but she is knowledgeable at the very least. She's been around a while. Mm-hmm. Let's go meet my old friend Kirishika. That's where they go.
Yep, and we get
to the demon continent away.
Yes, we get the we find out about, like, again, the trio of adventure, or the duo, the remaining duo, and it's like, Jalil died. Oh, okay, well, and then Nokopara just like, oh fuck, this guy, fucking horseman, it's like, and it's just like, shit. It's a barely. Do I know you? And he's like, no, of course not.
He's just. Alternate timeline, Rudius goes, I'm Rudius of Dead, and he just immediately shits himself and just collapses. And they don't ever get that information.
Yeah. Which I do like the way that conflict worked out with, like, just how, Atofe and the way her minions are influenced, and the way they just, like, Rudy sells Kishirika out, right? Like, because it's like, oh, wait, she did wrong you, and you're also willing to give us exactly what we need. Okay. He just puts her in chains. It's like, but it's, and I don't know. I do like how she doesn't really seem to resent them for it, because, like, obviously at the end of the day, she just goes off on her. Like, they still fed her, right? Like, then she goes off on her own
and then
to go get into more trouble.
They brought her along too in the escape maneuver. I just found that scene funny where she's like pleading with her eyes. She's like, please take me too. I don't want to be here with Atofe. It's cool, but Atofe as a character, she's entertaining.
I ended up seeing her as, like, a foil to Eris in a sense, because, like, she's also really dumb. Yep. She's also really strong. She also is deeply in love. Bastard. Right?
You bastard! You stole it from me. Fuck, because that's one cool thing about Eris is, like, you see her development, and Atofe is literally Eris if she's remained as stunted as she was before Rudius even began tutoring her. Right.
Right.
That is what Atofe essentially represents. because everything about her is very similar even to Eris's relationship with Rudius, where she had a relationship with also someone who was very, very powerful, North God Kalman the First, who, she married and she loves, obviously. She mentions him all the time. She uses literally his own North God techniques. Like, so she, so she's got a thing for him. And, obviously has a lot of respect for and love for him, and is also feisty and doesn't really think things through a lot, but to an even way more insane degree than even Eris. So it's a cool, it's cool,
and I guess another. Well, I will say, Rudy kind of like calls attention to the parallel, like once because he the bloodlust. He I think he directly mentions Eris there, and that sort of like opens the door to compare them even further. Because I was also going to think about how like Eris is also nobility. It's just like she lost like that. Obviously, it's like that all vanished, and she did have the chance to go back into it, but she chose freedom instead, right? Our Atofe is someone who she did stay in nobility basically, and took over a castle and became because that's right. This Bodigatti was formerly the demon king of this area, right? The city, I'm pretty sure. Because I feel like they mentioned that when they first went through the city, they were like, "Oh, and Bodigatti was here." I feel like.
I mean, Bodigatti is just the younger brother of Atofe.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But I feel like they specifically mentioned because that was when Bodigatti was first mentioned. I feel like.
Well, what I was going to say is you're probably right. Because
yeah.
Since Atofe is his older sister, she was probably like, this is Bro's castle. He's not here right now. I'll just take it over.
Yeah, exactly like that. So yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, where it's like he moved out, she moved in. So
yeah. So you're probably right. I don't honestly remember, but
okay.
Yeah. And then we get some lore on her forces. How a lot of them were kind of forced to sign contracts, and there's more who's kind of a fake one. He's like seems like he's out for the people that are about to be enslaved by Atofe, but he's really only making it a good hunt for her. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, no, because I was like, I thought it was kind of neat how the Knights were sort of on Rudy's side because they were in a similar situation. They're like, we don't want you in it, but then it's like, Moore is like, he's like, nah, fuck you guys, you're gonna work for my mistress, so and also him as a magic user being really competent, which even kind of comes up in the diary after like years later, like there's like the future Rudy kind of like gets like that fucks him up. Like that more like him underestimating more even have because like this Rudy right now is very humble, right? Like he's always seeing himself as the underdog and taking every situation very seriously. But the future Rudy loses that, so he fights more again and gets underestimates him, and that causes problem very bad. Like it goes very bad.
Yeah, it is when you put it that way. Isn't it so interesting that a much weaker Rudius is able to get the better of more, but later on in like the future timeline, like
because he has all the magical capacity Rudy does, but even better, right? But he loses that. That's because like Paulie, I think Rudy and his humility have come up before, right? Of how that's such a valuable trait of his, because like Perugius even sees Rudy and is like, oh yeah, you wounded Orsted, you must be real cocky about that, huh? And Rudy's like, who are you talking to? Like, what are you talking about? Because obviously it's like, oh, he has the audience, so that's not true at all, right? So yeah. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just, I remember thinking about that retroactively, and it's like, yeah, that's a good contrast there. So to show you how much Rudy has lost, in a sense, not even just the people around him, but also of himself and his own strengths as a person, even though he got more power. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. What about this section? What else? This stuff, that whole battle scene, the fucking the magic versus magic between Moore and Rudius.
Like also, they had
is so cool.
Yeah, and then Zanaba showing off his strength with Atofe, and the counter magic battle was really neat. Like it's just the powers going, and also Cliff being like, we're putting our trust in you to go forward, and it didn't work out obviously, and it turned out that Perugius was on his way anyway, but it was still like they put their hope in Cliff, and he was able to do his best in the situation, right? And like he was actually able to run forward, and but until he was stopped. But when backup arrived. But yeah, it's still it was a cool fight sequence.
Yeah, and I have to mention, like, the fight scenes are getting noticeably more engaging as the enemies get stronger and stronger. It's really cool to see because these fight scenes really do put me on the edge of my seat when I'm reading them, and obviously the best one, especially as we all know.
Yeah,
but it is cool that the note that Rudius kind of learns his electric spell that he that he kind of coined can bypass a lot of battle aura because it bypasses Atophae, like stuns her for a while, giving them time to run away until she makes it back.
Well, I was also going to mention how it's not only is it the spell that he adapted, but he learned the base spell from Roxy, and so Atophae is threatening to, in a sense, like rip him away from his family. But it's ultimately that what he learned from that family that's able to, keep that bond, right? So I was like, oh, that's neat. Cute. Yeah, cool. True. And also science. Don't forget science.
Science, science.
Oh, shit, there's water everywhere. If I use this electric spell, it's going to hurt. Oh, well. It's like, gotta do it. Yeah. Gotta do it. And because he realized that it's something that Moore couldn't counter because, that's the thing about lightning is it's very fast. So it's like physically you couldn't really counter it except for with countering beforehand.
But what was I going to say? Then the Perugius at the end is really cool because we get the note that him and Kal, the North God, were actually like best friends basically. And they when Kal was getting with Atophae, they made a promise that, like, hey, don't come over after. I know she's a demon and everything. Probably hate me for getting with her, but, like, bro, she's my girl, bro. Please don't kill her.
Yeah, and Perugius kept that promise. He still beat the shit out of her, but he didn't kill her.
You have killed her, Jesus.
Yeah.
No, that scene where it's like, oh, we're here, and like, oh shit, it's fucked, it's over, no, and then just Perugius, it's like Lady Atophae, that leads to the plot, and it's like because my thought, I didn't remember this. My thought was like, it's going to be like maybe a couple of the familiars. It's the man himself, armored dragon King Perugius, comes strutting out there. It's like, oh shit!
You hit the bee's nest. Demons in my. Oh man, I have to keep fucking demon blood out of my castle. Fuck, you know.
But the funniest thing about it though is there's dialogue that shows us that it probably would have been familiars if not for it being as soon as he hears it's Atophae, he comes personally because he wants that revenge.
Yes.
So. It wouldn't even have been the case if it weren't even for Atophae. So it's just funny. It's cool. And that, actually, now that reminds me, that's the whole reason Perugius starts warming up with all of them more is because they allowed that
vengeance,
to transpire, that revenge.
Exactly.
So, cool stuff. He is a very interesting character. Even more so because of his demon racism.
But anyway, so yeah, after that we get like what I was talking about earlier with like Perugius deliberately not helping Rudy to get stronger because of course not. And then also I love we have a customer now with them finagling like selling anime figurines to armored dragon Perugius, one of the strongest characters in the setting, and it's like, let's fucking go.
It's so based. It's so peak.
I just thought of a stupid joke. He's like, why are you pairing Perugius just like looks at Rudy and Zenith. I was like, why are you pairing them with jars though? Sorry,
you see, I am from another world.
Okay, that's something they don't really unpack is that he like knows well, I guess he would know that from Nanahoshi, but like, I don't know, he doesn't seem very curious about it, I guess. But still, I just noticed that because they're just talking about all this shit. And then later he kind of talks about things with Eris in the room, but she can't follow because, like, I think he even mentions how it's like, oh, they probably don't have the cultural idea of like reincarnation, where obviously like I don't know. So I remember specifically like someone was complaining because it was Oshinoko specifically because it had reincarnation as a story element, and someone was complaining about it being a thing and it being so common. And I remember thinking about it. It's like that's kind of like like imagine watching a Looney Tunes short and like Bugs dies and goes to heaven. And it like complain like why do they keep going to heaven when they die? Like it's a part of the culture's religion metaphysics, right? Like it's like they are very familiar with Buddhism and the idea of reincarnation. Like of course it's a common aspect of stories. Just like I wouldn't blink watching a Western thing and they die and they end up at the pearly white gates, right? It's like that's just of course, right? So but in this world they don't have that. So it's just a neat little detail I think about what you're gonna say.
Yeah, I was going to say, adding on to him, pretty much just telling Eris, telling her, he's from another world, but she can't follow it all. There is someone who was able to follow it all. One of his wives that does know.
Oh yeah, that's right. He opened up to Roxy last time. Roxy.
But Roxy,
I forgot about that.
With Roxy, he was like, this is someone I know. But at the end of it, Roxy makes it explicitly clear that she knows he's talking about himself because she says,
of course.
I think you should do this. And it's like, oh, okay. So she knows. and Rudius isn't even trying at this point
to hide it anymore. To
hide it, yeah. The only one who doesn't, know everything regarding this is Sylphie, which is interesting, especially given that there's that dialogue later in volume 15 where he's talking to Roxy about who he's, Orsted, the Orsted fight. And she's like, well, why isn't Sylphie here too? I feel like this is something she definitely needs to hear. And he's like, you're right. Why don't I want to tell her? Very interesting because I think it's no coincidence that there's that scene and the fact that Sylphie is the only one of the wives left that doesn't know.
Oh, I thought you were going to mention that she's also the one with the Laplace aspect, so she's also like potentially connected to, even if she's not a reincarnate herself, she's like that's something that allowed for Rudy's reincarnation. Like, because as we find out, like the reason Rudy was born in this timeline was because of the Laplace aspect, and in another timeline, like Rudy was just a miscarriage, right? Because Orsted, as Orsted said, I thought Paul and Zenith only had the two daughters, right?
Yeah.
So because that answered that question, because I was like, why it wasn't, I don't know. Anyway. But yeah, I don't think I have anything to say until chapter 10.
Yeah, I don't either.
Because we have chapter 10, we have the one Rudy was talking about like how because before I was talking about how like Rudy doesn't focus in on his strengths, he focuses on balancing out his weaknesses, and he kind of even mentions that directly where he's like he likes in this world being able to pick up a wide range of skills, where in our world we kind of are expected to dedicate ourselves to like one thing, right? Like if you wanted to change jobs or careers right now, like if you don't have transferable skills, you're gonna be fucked, right? Like you kind of have to dedicate yourself to one thing, but he's like, I like how you can just do a lot of things. And then of course we get his talk with the man god, and he like kind of what I was expecting next time we saw the man god, of just him going over like, well, this is what would have happened if you did this, and it's like a very reasonable story, and it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And it's especially like the sort of pros cons where it's like, his parents would have been alive. Zenith still would have, been in the same state, obviously, but he wouldn't have married Roxy. So he basically traded his marriage with Roxy to, Paul's life in a sense, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but it's like, oh well, so it goes as it says, and then man god's like, hey, just check out the basement real quick, and he goes to the basement. It's like, I'm you from the future. Holy shit!
He's like, no, this is what I say to people that don't care about spoilers. I've elucidated it like this: his future self comes back and he looks at him. He goes, "Hey, you fuck up again. This new life, like your last one, you fucked it all up again. Let me tell you how. Let me make sure that doesn't happen to you." And it's like, God damn. This is what Mushoku Tensei is, man. He's like, it's like he's never safe. Basically, it's like can always crumble. The littlest thing can domino and to make your life, essentially end you. That's crazy. It's so crazy,
right? Because
he's essentially met with another life's ruination, basically, 2 times. It's absolutely insane, and it is the most. It is somehow much more depressing and decrepit than before, like far more so. When Rudius gets to actually reading this shit, it's like, oh my, like I felt like not nauseous, but I almost felt like Rudius, like literally like throwing up. Like I was like, God, I didn't remember some of this stuff. Some of this stuff I did remember in the web novels, but some of it I did, like Cliff's death and stuff. Like I was like, oh my God, and he dies like that. Like the dude is such a good soul that he is willing to betray the very church he sees a future for himself in, and then he dies for it. And it's like, and then when they're on the run, it's like, today is the first time I killed a man, and it's like, oh my God, it's like, oh no, it's all going down. God, it's crazy. No, but that's but that's after even the conversation between him and himself, and it's like this whole, oh, where do I even start? Where do I even begin?
Yeah, no, let's get into the diary later. We need to start with like one at a time because there's also like I was also like, what the fuck is the deal with the man god, right? Because like, well, especially like the thematic idea there with the regrets, right? Where it's like Rudy trying to avoid having regrets, having come from this life of regrets, is basically like a free meal to the man god, right? Like, you know, he's just like, you know, he's just completely like in this other timeline, particularly like at his mercy, right? And the man god promising him, you will not have regrets, turns him into a man with many regrets, right?
Exactly.
God.
Yeah, and just how this, like I mentioned, the domino effect. I think this is just such brilliant writing. How literally one thing in Rudius's life just dominoes so hard. I think is just the coolest thing. Like even domino for the rat getting out of the basement, and the rat will go and eat food, and then that contaminated food Roxy will eat, and it's like,
and because she's pregnant, she falls with this sickness, and then again you mentioned already the stuff with Cliff and them making an enemy of the Mills Church, and by de facto the Archer Kingdom, and then Sylphie leaves him because he becomes a monster, and then she dies, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Zanova dies, everybody dies. It's like no.
Literally the only people left that like stick it out with him, even in his most decrepit state, Zanoba and like Aisha, even they die because of the Millis revenge. Like it's like, holy shit, what is going, dude? Okay, actually, I don't want to get into that right now. Let's talk about the conversation.
Yeah, it's so easy to just snowball from the future Rudy talking about his life to future Rudy writing about his life. It's just like right there, right? You just I understand.
Well, because a lot of it is his future self kind of alluding to what Rudius will be reading, because he does expand
on it. Yeah, exactly.
Things. I don't know what else to say other than it's like peak fiction goated. Like it's the fact that Rudius, one of the first things he homes in on is not just that this guy looks very similar, but it's the added to that, he knows that this guy's got like eyes of a killer though. Like he looks like he's killed a lot of fucking people, and it's crazy because you're looking at yourself, dude. It's like you're the same guy who wasn't able to slaughter those people in the Begarit continent. You'll be one of the guys later that kills an entire fucking town. Like it's crazy.
I can see why you paid more. Well, oh no, we're missing. No, I guess okay. Yeah, I was just remembering you mentioning that being cut. And back before we started rereading it, and mentioning that as a loss, and now it's like, now I understand why it's like, because I thought it was neat, but it's like I don't know if I felt it was necessary to the story, and now it's like, okay, I can see why that's. I mean, that even does come up in this reading because he like uses the lightning on the soldiers, and it's like, oh god, I think I killed some people, and then it turns out not to be the case, but it was it's still a concern at this point, right?
Exactly.
So, and then a few chapters before we see a Rudy where it's not a concern anymore. Because he also, I love how he's like, okay, you need to forgive Eris and marry her, but also she's kind of like Vegeta from Dragon Ball, and I'm like,
that's so funny. All the references to. Or even, I think at one point he mentions like this isn't some Hollywood film or something.
Yeah, no, and even just the fact that the way he's able to like get Rudy's like trust is like he knows his name. Right, like his actual name, something he's never told even Nanahoshi, right? Like he has held that to himself, and nobody knows it except for presumably like the man god, I guess, right, and himself, of course. So yeah,
it's the conversation's crazy. Like him, in like the note, yeah, like even the thoughts, other than the eyes of the killer situation when, Oldius, as he's known in the community, by the way, that the community calls him Oldius, so do I. When Oldius is like getting really mad and electricity's flying everywhere, how Rudius is like, this is like a scary sight, but I don't feel afraid. I thought that was a really interesting mental note because he knows, even though he hasn't fully accepted it externally, I think internally he's completely accepted the fact that I think this is me. Like something tells me this is me, and therefore I'm not going to get scared of myself.
Right, because he's not gonna. He came to save you and all the people he loves, not hurt you. Right, so of course know. Yeah.
Again, it's just there's so much here, and it's so good. It's hard to even start.
Dude, imagine reading the novels as they were coming out and getting to that and being like, "Fuck," and having to wait for more.
What's so crazy is that line, "Consult Nanahoshi," resonates so much when you learn that a lot of Rudius' struggle with his revenge quest is like, I can't fucking find Orsted. Mm-hmm. Where the fuck is this guy?
That turns out to be his fucking salvation, right? Like, because that's the thing. Is like either way, it's like because I was even thinking about when the fight was building up to where it's like whoever wins, the man god wins, right? If either of one of them die, right? But of course, as happened, and it was like, let's fucking go, is the worst thing for the man god, right? So exactly. But he wasn't able to accomplish that in this life because Nanahoshi failed her mission and she just lost. She committed suicide, right? She didn't die from her sickness. She took her own life, is what I got out of it. So just making sure I remembered correctly.
Because it's not explicitly stated. It's
basically implied. That's what I was like. Did they directly state it? But because I just wanted. Okay. And also this also framed Orsted attacking Rudy in the first place because even aside from like even if he didn't have this like blood feud with the man god over because he killed my father, but like just the fact that like people manipulated by the man god attacking Orsted, like obviously that turns out like as the man god claims, because like you can't, he's like, oh, the world's gonna get destroyed if I die, bitch. Fuck you. Shut up. You can see the future, but it's like, you stop seeing the future after you die. That doesn't mean the world's destroyed, you lying fuck. Right? Exactly. But I was even thinking about from the context of like, if he had, tried to kill Orsted before, like the fighting god, for example, someone else really strong. Because that's the thing about like him, because he even mentions to Rudy, it's like, I can just talk. I was lying before about like wavelengths and you being the chosen one or whatever. I can talk to whoever I want, as long as they're human. I think but so any potential human can be manipulated by the man god. It's like, fuck. Oh God.
Yep. One of those people is Luke, and he's an apostle. Luke, no.
Where was that mentioned?
You don't remember? That's why they went to the. That's why they went to the kingdom in that timeline.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because Luke got the words from God, i.e. the man god, that they had to go to, because that's the man god's way of getting rid of Sylphie, right?
Plummeting
Ariel,
now I remember. Okay, gotcha. I forgot that.
To the Austro kingdom, so that she'd die there, right?
Okay.
Well, because he's got to kill Roxy and Sylphie so that he can make sure.
Yes.
That, so that.
Though he doesn't seem to have been able to kill Lucy because he still had descendants, obviously. But also see, what I remembered about Luke was him apparently in Orsted mentioning how in the world without Rudy, he was the one to be Eris's husband. So because I was thinking about that in the so I was talking before about how I thought it was because like obviously with like Roxy is like because she's eternally young, because she's a demon, it's hard for her to find love, and then Eris like she's Eris, right? She's kind of a fucking beast, the mad dog, so to speak. Like, and she's a terrible noble, right? Like, she's not, like, these two are people who would have difficulty finding love if not for Rudy. But as we see from the man god's claim of the alternate timeline with Roxy and, or you know, Orsted's vision of a world without Rudy, is they can find love, right? Like, Roxy was saved by a different adventure and fell in love with him, and Eris met Luke somehow, apparently. And
although that adventurer did turn down Roxy.
Yeah.
Unfortunate for Roxy. She gets no love, apparently.
Oh, wait, I forgot about that part. Okay.
Not reciprocal.
I just remembered the falling in love part. Okay, there's so much information. Sorry for not remembering every detail, I guess, guys. I know you're fine with it if I mentioned it to the viewers, I guess, because I'm just like, that's too much. I read it all in one day. Excuse me for not gleaning every single fact. all of this about the half of volume 14 and like everything from like the maybe even them going to Ryokazu, the Demon's King. I read all of that up to the end in one day.
I think I'll forgive you. But, I mean, something worthy of note, you know, intentional or not, I think it is really cool that Oldius is kind of like a little bit of a husk of himself, even literally, with the fact that he's literally missing his innards.
Yeah.
When he's here, in front of current Rudius. And that, I mean, it's a reflection of like how empty he is in this existence. You know, in his failed new life. Basically, it is an empty, devoid new life, and he literally is only living for revenge at this point. But that revenge, I mean, he knows just as much as anyone. I mean, what is the last thing he thinks about before he dies? It's not the man god. It's not any of that shit. It's that, oh, I just want one last look at those two, at Roxy and Sophie. And he sees them even before they come in. So we know he's using some type of magic to see them. And then he sees them, and then that's his final note. Is he gazes at these like, you guys are as beautiful as ever. It's just so sad. There's something so sad about that, and that like to get here again. I do view it as like a reflection of like who he is at that point. It's just without those two, he's nothing.
Well, that's what I was thinking about. Well, so for as far as destruction instructions go, I say we go into the diary because it ties so closely to future Rudy, and then we go back to the extra chapter because I don't want to skip it, but it's also like right between the oldest stuff. Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, because I wanted to, or I was going to mention how, hold on. The fact that like, because Roxy was the newest member of the family, but her death was also the snowball, right? That started building up until it tore everything down, right? It's just like, you know, his family is so important. Like with Orsted later, let's go. But you know, family is just so important to him that like without it, he becomes this fucking monster. So actually, it's funny. It reminded me of I'd be very surprised if the answer was yes. But did you ever hear about a manga called Cheat Slayer? It lasted for one chapter and was canceled.
No.
Okay, so basically the premise is I don't think because it's referent to isekai stories, and that I don't think it had. So anyway, the main character was a person in this fantasy world who gets talked to like you know how Aqua in Konosuba is like a god figure who's aware of like the reincarnation stuff. He's talked to by a goddess figure like that, except because there's these characters who they're all actual references to isekai characters like Overlord and ReZero and Yojo Senki, and I don't remember some of them, and I'm pretty sure Mushoku Tensei wasn't one of them, but the idea is that they're like evil versions of these characters. My biggest problem with the manga was that like the way the goddess framed it to the main character was that like, oh, these characters are actually like losers from another world. They don't deserve a second chance, which is like actually a fucked up thing to say when real people are hikikomori who read this manga. And it's like, oh, they don't deserve a second chance. Like that's kind of like what the series are about. Right, like you don't have another life, right? Like make a good use of this one. Like that's literally what old Rudy says. But I was just thinking about in that context because of the idea of like old Rudy is literally like he becomes like evil Rudy basically, right? Where it's like it takes the aspects of Rudy's character as we know, but then because he's lost all his family, he's just lost all these reverberations. He's talking about just sexually assaulting women and just killing whoever he feels like. He burns down a big part of the Ashura capital because of, you know, he sees Sylphie's body, and it's like, fuck. I just thought about that manga though because I was like, oh, this premise of like, you know, evil. I was also talking about it on stream a while ago because there's apparently a ReZero like alternate like a what if kind of novel that has like because it's probably, I don't know if you how much you remember from season 1, but when he meets the Archbishop of Sloth, the guy, he looks at him and is like, hey, Super, are you like the Archbishop of Envy? Apparently there's an alternate novel where he does become the Archbishop of Envy, so he go evil Subaru. So I was just talking about it. I was just something I was thinking about recently, and then I happened to read this novel, and it's like, oh, Evil Rudy's actually a part of the book, in a sense where it's like, yeah, this is what he can do if he just loses all that inhibition and that desire to really live in this world and, use all of his power and become even like the magic armor was like, Jesus Christ, he could just make this armor and fight the strongest people in the world, right? And it's just like, but anyway.
Yeah, and I think something worthy of note though is that he becomes much more similar to his previous life self.
Yes.
The fact that anyone who kind of steps in his way, whereas in his previous life, if someone tried to come in his room and console him, he would act out aggressively.
Yep.
Like if he'd
hear
noise downstairs, he would kick his fucking foot.
They mentioned like anytime his parents talked about money, he'd start tantruming basically, and because he doesn't, just exactly shut it all down.
And if people get in his way now with Dark Rudius, he'll fucking kill him. With Eris, while he didn't kill her, anytime she tried to reason with him or talk to him, he would just completely disregard, try to fight, try to avoid, and he hated her because in his mind she was not trying to help him or didn't care about him. She was just in his way, kind of like his old family.
Yes,
in his way of his.
Oh yeah, I did. That's right. Life. I didn't think of it quite like that. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is
because she was the one who stuck with him and loved him the longest, right? Even when he was so far gone, and she died, and Ghislaine was like, "What the fuck is your problem?" And he explained the missing piece regarding Eris, right? That he was lacking to, because she's, and then that's which is why I told his younger self, like, fucking marry her, idiot. So God.
Yeah, I mean it's reminiscent like that whole, that scolding basically is it's like going out in the cold rain, very similar to like the words Ghislaine is hoisting up at Rudius is reminiscent of that same kind of cold splash in his face of reality, like when his brothers came, beat him up, and sent him outside. Right? It's so similar. When you put it that way.
Yeah, no,
I think that's so fucking cool.
That's good. Yeah. But I was gonna say the fucking robot automaton Sylphie. It's like no, like.
Oh, and he destroys it. Because,
it's like literally concurrent entries. It's like, oh, Zenobo made a robot Sylphie. And the next is like, I destroyed the robot Sylphie, because it's like, because even in the first one, even comments about how it's like it's not really sick. She can't argue with him. She can't even if she seems like Sylphie in voice and appearance, it's like she's not Sylphie, and that eventually it got to a point where he just destroyed it, right?
I mean, what else, man? I mean, Ellen Elise slaps him, leaves, because Cliff is dead, and it's because Cliff decided to help him that he had to die. Everyone essentially, leaves him. I mean, even Lilia takes Zenith and presumably Lucy somewhere else.
Yes. They didn't really go into Lucy because I think Rudy even wonders was he just like trying not to think about it, maybe. I think that's what but because
well, and I think in the notes, doesn't he mention Lucy a little bit? He's like I wonder if she's eating enough or something.
Yeah, okay, was thinking about it. Because I was even wondering what language was the diary written in, and they did mention that there's notes in Japanese. So it's mostly written in, I presume, the general tongue, but it's his diary, so he has his little scribbles in Japanese. So apparently his handwriting is bad.
Both Nanahoshi and Orsted say as much. So that must be
a Japanese person and a person of this world both think his handwriting is bad, so it's not like one is better than the other. Oops.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, I have index because I'm learning Japanese, and I make index cards to practice. And yeah, my handwriting is also bad, but their kanji are hard. Anyway.
I mean, man, that whole sequence too, man, of just how he, at some point he gets stronger than Eris, and then captures her and is interrogating her, and he like whittles her down to the point where she's like acting like she used to, and she's getting very like upset and flustered. And then it's like, man, fuck, Rudy, why are you doing this to my girl, man? Fuck, you're making her sad, man. She's saddest. She's sad, Eris, man. Don't make her sad. Don't make her upset, man.
Well, and that's sort of like
it's just so upsetting when you read this stuff. It feels so bad because like the one woman who still loves you like that, like you can't even hope to acknowledge because you're not there anymore. Like I said, he's a husk. Like he's not. He's just like he was in his previous life.
And that's sort of like juxtaposed with like the little scenes in between where he just like he's because imagining a future in which he has none of the things, like literally seeing a future where he has none of the things that he loves, and him just like hugging Sylphie in the hallway because it's like, God, I don't want to lose you, right? And Roxy, and just him being like coming having that sentimentality and caring so much more about what he does have. Right, it's just like
dude, that diary shit, man, is a hard read. It's so good though. It's so fucking good.
No, I think having the parallels there and just seeing what Rudy can be and like being able to contrast that with his current self and presumably and also as we go on future self, right, is going to be interesting. And it really was. And even just here, it's like, God, it just.
And I mean. Even like the final touch of like Rudius burying Oldius with Paul, I think is just it's so good. It's like, man, shit is peak.
Because that's what I would want, right? Like that's what he thinks.
Yeah, that's what he would want. Yeah, he knows. I mean, what else? When it comes to the, I guess there's not much else to say in terms of the.
There's a little lore like, the man god's at the center of the cube, and.
And then
I've
been visiting these ruins and I've been learning.
Oh yeah, the mural that the story that Perugius mentioned what their ancestors wanted to pass down, which as we found out, it's not just a story because Orsted is also like from that past, right? Like he's from distant history.
It's also a reincarnation.
Exactly.
So,
wait, because I actually
crazy.
I think earlier we were talking and you mentioned like a character from later on that has a really interesting contrast with Rudy, and I guessed who it was, and I said Orsted. Am I remembering that correctly? You don't even remember. Never mind. It's okay.
I don't even remember this conversation. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, it's okay. Unfortunate. Maybe if someone can remember what episode it was, I could find it and be like, because
that probably did happen though, because I probably was.
I feel like there was like a character from later on that you didn't want to talk about directly, but I feel like they contrast. I want to say really contrast as well with Rudy, and I guessed. Because I mostly remember the conversation because I didn't want to put you on the spot in regards to like what do I say to not spoil crafts, because like having been on that with like the Nen show with talking about One Piece with someone who hadn't gone through it before, it's like if they say something you want to say, you be a good listener and respond, but it's like how do you say and you I mostly remember that part.
Because actually two characters come to mind.
Oh, okay.
Not just Orsted. So Orsted is one of them.
Okay, gotcha.
Another character,
Okay. I just wanted to follow up to that, but then you forgot the original, so it's like, oh, never mind.
Who knows which character I was thinking of at the time.
But anyway, to back up a little bit, the extra chapter with Eris at the end of Volume 14 is good. Eris is really good. Like, I love the like when she's like, determination is the right answer, and Galfalion's like, no, and she's like, yes it is, because she's well, it's perfect because this chapter really just like, this is what Eris's ideals are, and this is her like proving them, right? Like she says determination is the right answer, she fucking believes it is, and it is because she believes it, right? And then of course with Nina is like, because Nina's like, because her answer was power. And but Eris won that duel by pulling back on her own power. She didn't use her full strength, and that's how she won, right? Because they were dueling, they weren't fighting, right? Because
wait. Sorry, what did you say Nina's answer was?
Oh, didn't and like this, or she said because the Gulf. Hold on, let me go back because the question was
Nina's was.
Well, she said strength.
Did she?
I
thought it was something related to. Gino.
Well, that's the answer she came to, but not her first answer.
Oh,
because Galfalion asked, "What do you think separates a sword saint, a sword king, and a sword emperor?" And Nina's first answer is strength. and Eris shows that that's not the case, right? Because she doesn't defeat Nina with power. She deliberately.
No, I thought that was no, because now I got it. I see it now. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought that was the Geno's answer.
I'm looking at it right now. It says strength ? Nina blurted. So.
Okay. Yeah, then I'm misremembering. Sorry.
So I just thought that was fitting that Eris won by not using her full strength because it was a duel. It wasn't a real fight, right?
Exactly.
She's also able to. I don't know, just a good Eris chapter. Shocking. What do you know?
Shocking.
And then of course they even say Eris is she's a master. She's the only master in her school apparently, aside from Galfalian himself, or because not even Ghislaine and the Emperors are masters, and they even mention it's all she needs to do is beat Ghislaine or Galfarian and she can rank up. So it's she's Eris, let's go.
She doesn't have an interest in that. She's looking somewhere else.
No, the fact because I think they talk about that too, where it's just I think was it in this chapter?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
What did you say? Sorry.
I was because she didn't want she doesn't care about the rank and stuff. Where Nina had to think about what she would be willing to give up to be a higher rank in her story. I think that happens.
Okay, because Gaul gives him the ultimatum between marrying
that was it,
and then or becoming a Sword King, and then she says Sword King. He's like, oh, then I guess you really haven't learned.
Yes.
But she what is the other answer she gives after strength? What does she say exactly?
I'm trying to find it. Because I imagine it was hold on.
Because Gaul acknowledges that she's grown whenever she says it.
Oh, maybe well, hold on. Because after she loses, she's crying and he says, "You still have room to grow. Buck up." So hold on, let me look.
But in the dialogue before that, she looks because she looks at Gino, and then she comes to another. She says something.
Let me find that. Yeah, give me a second. Hold on.
How do you fucking say his name? Gino Brits.
Gino Brits is what it's written here. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you say it Gino. Gino.
No, I fucked up.
Gino for some reason.
No, wrong book. What was his web novel type?
No, I think it's Gino Brits. I'm pretty sure it's always been that. Yeah.
Because Gino gives an answer, and he's weapon quality. He's like, weapon quality. What the fuck are you talking about? Galfari gets mad.
Go.
Desire. That is what Nina says after saying strength.
Yes, that's the answer.
I forgot about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, there's no way I made that up. It's desire, and then Gaul's like, oh, okay, so you have learned a little bit.
Yes. No, because
and that's why she's even granted the right to fight Eris in the first place, because she gives a much better answer at least than Gino.
Yes, and where I remember the strength part because that was I noticed that more in the fight because of the way Eris was pulling back on her strength to do it faster, and that's how she beat Nina. But no, you're right.
The only reason I say that is because I literally have two swordsman characters that are loosely inspired by Gino and Nina's relationship. So, in my story. So, I was like, there's no way that my inspiration is I'm misremembering what literally inspired.
I mean, that inspiration can work like that. Obviously, it doesn't in this case, but because I mostly remember there's an anime/manga called Pluto, which is by Naoki Urasawa, who also did 20th Century Boys and Monster. In case you've heard of any of those works, and he Pluto's an adaptation of a certain story arc of Astro Boy.
I watch Monster.
Oh yeah, cool. Naoki Urasawa is great, but Pluto is adapted from a story arc of Astro Boy, and in Naoki Urasawa's Mon Ben, in one of the which is a documentary series where he goes around to other manga authors and records them drawing, and then they talk about their process and their history as a But in one of them, I remember he was talking with an author, and they were talking about in their minds remembering scenes specifically from Tezuka manga in this case. They actually added context and lines to those scenes that weren't in the original. And which I guess they were taking that as both we're emotionally connected to this because they're imagining things and lines that aren't there. But also Naoki Urasawa mentioned how for part of there was one character death in that the Astro Boy arc that he actually wrote his imagined additions into Pluto. and I just thought that was an interesting way to like take influence from something, and like be influenced by and take it and work that influence into something. So I don't know. So I was gonna say it's like maybe because like you don't have to get directly like, oh, this thing does this thing, I'm gonna do this thing, but it's even like something that's a work is not doing can inspire you as well, right?
Of course,
if you get that idea,
which has been the case for me.
Yes, of course. So yeah, I just wanted to. I just thought about that. So anyway,
yeah, I completely agree. This is also the chapter where she gets her sword too.
Yes.
Right? And I thought it was so cool that she doesn't even take, it seems like she doesn't linger on the option for too long. I mean, there's 3 choices, and presumably she's going to carry this for the rest of her swordsman career, but it doesn't really take her long to like pick up a sword and go, this one. And then Golfarian mentions like, oh shit, all right, yeah, good choice. That's the fucking first sword god sword. It's like, oh shit, okay, shit, fuck. He's like, oh, that one, I can't even tame that one. That one doesn't speak to me, I guess.
Sword King Eris, let's fucking go.
Sword King Eris, pog. No, but yeah, I thought that was cool. And then and how it relates even to Orsted because its innate ability is it can
yes,
it can kind of chop through battle aura. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a perfect blade to be fighting the dragon god.
Yes, indeed. But before we get there, because there was the so after the diary is like you have him like I mean I like when because like Sylphia and Roxy are trying to figure out what's going on, and I think he invites them, like he wants to talk to them, and Sylphie's like, oh, he must want a threesome, and I'm like, Sylphie, no, he's going through some shit. No, that's not it. It's funny, but it's not it. And then her just being fucking adorable, where like when because obviously Eris comes up and he's like, I love her, but not as much as you two, and she's just like her in the bed and just like freaking out over Rudy is so fucking cute. Like, she's so good. Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be fun in the anime, I bet. I hope. But that's gonna be like season 4. So no, actually, it would be season 3. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be. So
this is season 3. Yeah.
These novels, are not even. They're going to be one core, presumably. If
I was thinking about like what are some other ways they can do that? Because one way I thought of is if they have the halfway mark specifically at the end of the Orsted fight and end the season there and do the follow-up in the next half. I think that could work because these novels are long is the problem, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know for sure how they'd be able to do that.
I really do think these 3 should just be all of season 3, like all 2 cores. Be all
that would be fair. That would be fair.
My hope is they're going to do it.
Maybe because instead of adapting 6 novels in 2 cores, even maybe I don't know what happens in the next novel, but this is a pretty good I understand why you wanted to read to this point because this that's the thing. It's like after I read 14, it's like I can't stop now. This isn't a good stopping point at all. But after 15, it's like okay, I do want to read 16, but I can stop. I can okay. They're gonna team up and fight the man god. Let's fucking go. Okay, I can chill for a second.
15 is like a great. Yeah, it's a great pause if you wanted to. But
well, because obviously the other thing that happens in chapter 3 after the diary is because one of the big questions I had at the end of volume 14 is what the fuck is the man god going to do now that future old Rudy has come in and warned past Rudy. About the man god scheme, and sure enough he comes in, he's like, oh, he's not smirking anymore, oh, he's not playing around, he's like, oh, that fucker had to ruin everything, didn't he?
You cheated, you bastard.
Fuck. With his fucking time travel magic. I forgot to highlight that earlier.
Yeah. And then and that conversation basically bottles down to well, if you killed Orsted though,
I won't have a reason to bother you because
that'll solve everything. And you know what? That fight, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know what to expect from that. And then it's like literally man god killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Right? It's like you kill Orsted. I mean, if you die, then
one problem solved. If Orsted, because then he can target solved. Lucy and Sylphie and Roxy without having to worry about Rudy because he's connected to Rudy. But and Rudy's also aware of him. And then if Orsted dies, then he doesn't have to worry about Rudy's family because they won't be able to do it. At least, I don't know. That's the thing is actually because I killing Orsted is obviously the worst choice because I was just imagining it's like, because then Man God would be able to see the future beyond his his would-be death, right? And he could see his next end, and then find out like, oh, maybe Rudy's descendants are still fucking around, right? Like, and trying to kill me, right, for whatever reason. Because there's other dragon folk out there, but who knows? But I was gonna say, so we learn a lot about the like other mechanics of the world. Like they mentioned the idea of having a strong destiny, and Rudy and these because they have strong destinies, they're harder to manipulate with fate and Rudy's descendants, and which of course later ties to the teleportation incident, and why certain characters survive. It's because they have stronger fates, right? So that was interesting. But as far as I was also going to bring up how I think it's interesting how the man god's ultimate desire is to live. He doesn't want to die at all. And of course, he's opposed by Rudy, who not only like has died or almost died multiple times, but I was also thinking about like how the reason or like the thing that happened right before he was reborn was he gave up his life trying to protect someone else, right? A complete fucking stranger at that. Like, so Rudy's someone who's able to give up, to risk his life and put his life on the line. And his ultimate enemy, the man god, is someone who wants to live no matter what, even though he's all up. He seems to have had a very long life, right? So, and he wants to hold on to that. So, I don't know. I just thought of that as a contrast. And it's like, okay, yeah, neat.
Neato.
Yeah.
Neato. That is cool. I hadn't thought of that. Totally right. It's fucking epic.
That's what I'm here for, is hear those little comments of like, I haven't thought about before, from, haha, I haven't even read a whole series, let's go. No, it's like, you're obviously full of stuff I haven't heard about before, too, and, even for stuff I, like, with Bleach that I had gone through before, so yeah, it's all good. That's what I'm here for, to talk about stuff, but it also feels good to hear that from Spicy.
Analyze, too, okay, yeah, that's why I'm here on this show. No, I'm kidding. So... what do I want to talk about next?
There was also I just thought it was interesting to frame it this way. Because he specifically mentions that pregnant women have more vague destinies, which can also explain like dying during childbirth and stuff. But that's why Roxy was able to be vulnerable, because she was pregnant. Was the other thing. So I just thought it was neat. I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just want the man god's a good antagonist because of that manipulation, and he's just so like because he's shady from the beginning, and Rudy doesn't trust him, but then Rudy comes to trust him. So on some level, I came to trust him, and then we find out the truth, and it's like, fuck, it all makes sense.
Never trusted.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So and it's also just interesting because Rudy in this world, as we see with future Rudy, is he's so powerful, but it's like, the man god isn't dangerous because he's powerful, right? It's because he, like, as he mentions when Orsted and his descendants come, it's like, I didn't put up a fight, which of course could be a lie, but it's like, I don't know, we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, really, the first hit really comes in their last interaction, before he comes and tells them to open the basement and see if anything's in there. Is because, I mean, think about what he's telling him. Before the beggar situation, he's like, yeah, go fucking just betray Sylphie real quick by ham-fisting your way into Lydian personas' lives romantically. It's like, that's... what?
Yeah, I even mentioned, like, that almost feels like either he just... I guess I didn't really at the time consider that, because I'm thinking, like, he's a god, right? But as Orsted mentions, he's far from perfect, right? But because I was even thinking, is he deliberately saying this because he wants Rudy to go against him? Because I especially think of it from the man god's perspective, is like, Rudy going against him and things still turning out okay is like, because I feel like, there's a level at which, like, he can because that's, as they're talking, it's like, before being sent to the basement, is like, he does seem to have, like, pretty much complete trust in the man, maybe not complete trust, but, like, much even more trust in the man god at that point, because it's like, yeah, this guy's not really malicious, right? Like, even when I went away out of his order, like, against his orders, like, things were still able to turn out well. Not perfect, not in this way, the way that he wanted, but in a good, so it's like, it's not conditional, right? Their relationship, right? Like, you listen to me or you'll suffer. It's like, no, you listen to me and it's just advice, right? Like, that's what it seems like, right? So that makes the reveal be like, oh, fuck. Because I knew, I got spoiled on Future Rudy, but I didn't get spoiled on the man god at all. So I had that reveal of just like, fuck, the guy who speaks to you in your dreams and is offering you promises, and like, that's Rudy's real cheat. it seems, right, because going back to the idea of like, isekai characters being more powerful, it's like, because I mentioned like the mana reserves is like, oh, this is, which is something that Rudy has, but again, like uniquely, relatively speaking, but obviously the man god is a benefit that it seemed like no one else had, and it turned out to not be benefit at all. So I don't know.
Yeah.
God.
It's Pete.
Yeah.
What else do we go over next? I don't know.
Well, next was the Nanahoshi conversation, where I kind of talked about a little bit with the idea of the strong destinies and her sort of theory regarding everything. Because
yeah, the displacement theory is still kind of confusing to me.
Okay.
A little bit. It's like
I can't say I fully got it, so let's try and work it out.
The idea. It seems like she's saying, maybe someone can elucidate this in the comments. It seems what she was getting at is that like there's a lot of people in that displacement incident that literally, because of the what's the theoretical concept or the actual what's it called with matter?
Law of conservation of energy? No.
Law of conservation of energy.
Oh, that was it. Okay,
The
yes.
exact one. And how her theory is like a lot of the people that got quote unquote displaced were actually like eviscerated as energy, I guess, to make for the energy necessary to transport like her there. Mm-hmm. And someone made it so that she would get transported too. That's like another thing she said. That's kind of the gist of what I got out of it. And whether that is the case.
Oh, I don't remember that part. Okay, kind of, gotcha. Well, I remember the conservation of energy coming up. I just thought that the people died not for that, but because they had weak destinies. So that's why they ended up in the ocean or in the mountain, and died. Where characters with strong destinies like Rudy and Sylphie ended up in.
What it is. I mean, the law of conservation of energy. That's what I'm thinking, because when I think of the law of conservation of energy, I'm thinking like, well, where's the energy being transferred if they're only being displaced?
Well, I thought that was like the sort of backlash, like the in was Nanahoshi summoning to the world, the out was the displacement incident. Like that's the conservation. That's where that's what I was taking from it, because what seems to have happened is that like the descendants, because like Orsted was sent from the past, and then in the future they brought Rudy and Nanahoshi to the same timeline. It seems to be the because like Nanahoshi needs to make the missing artifact for the getting to the man god, right? Or I think, or unless they can find it, I guess. But like she's necessary to this mission, basically.
Yes.
And where so yeah, I don't know if we'll find out more about. I mean, you would know, I guess, but maybe we will. Like that's what I was getting out of it. So I think I have it reasonably straight in that way, but also it's like there's still things I don't know.
Of course, yeah.
Oh no, okay, never mind. Wait. So okay, let me actually rephrase that. So she said we were sent here by someone in the future who wants the man god dead, and I inferred that maybe it was Rudy's descendants. They didn't say that. I guessed that. Okay. Because there was also the man god mentioned seeing Orsted, Rudy's descendants, and some man he didn't know. Like fucking Fred from Walmart was there. We don't fucking know. I don't know. You know, because you're laughing. You're mocking me. No, it's oh man. But yeah, Rudy's resolution where it's like he can't trust either Orsted or the man god. So he decides to, kill Orsted and take what appears to be the path of least resistance, because at least, like, Orsted is someone in this world who he can fight, even if he's also literally the strongest person in the world, where the man god is beyond the world, right? Though that's what I was wondering, is because, like, I mentioned, it doesn't come up in this reading, but, like, in Volume 14, during the teleportation, Rudy recognized, this space is the space that the man god is in. Obviously, it would be super risky, and they'd have to be more to it. But I had the thought of like, what if Rudy resisted teleportation while being teleported? Would he end up stranded in that zone? Could he swim to the man god and fucking kill him? Like, I don't know.
True.
It's just a thought I had, but obviously, it's like it's a to use I guess another fantasy like common fantasy equivalent. There's like the Astral Sea in D&D, but it's also like incredibly large, so it's not like you can just like easily find something that is out there. So you know, I can see like it's like space, right? It's like it wouldn't necessarily be a reliable method, but you know.
Yeah,
so,
but I mean, given what Perugius said, where he was like, "You could have resisted me if you really wanted to." I guess I take that as like, if you try to counteract the teleportation, it'll literally just, if you do successfully, it'll literally just send you back.
Yeah, that's what I would
you
assume would
started.
happen, but I did have the thought of like, well, like, because there's, I guess, a slight difference between like resisting it from the beginning and then accepting it and then resisting it was more what I like, resisting it while in the middle space, basically.
Sure.
I was just one. Again, I don't imagine it's something that they're going to go into, but it was a thought that I was having.
Yeah, because you would think that would be like the first thing even Rudius thinks of.
Yeah, and then he didn't think about that, so I'm like, because again, or because again, going back to the like. Me and Rudy, like, I thought when Lucy was like, oh, wait, she's not crying that much. And my first thought was like, oh, shit, is she a reincarnation? And Rudy's first thought was like, oh, shit, is she a reincarnation? I'm like, okay, good. But then in this instance where my first thought, Rudy didn't think about it. And it's like, are they going to bring this up or not? Because it's also like, again, it feels like a very risky and like high risk, low reward solution. Like, I mean, maybe high reward solution, but like, high, incredibly high risk rather, like higher the risk than the reward. So it's like probably not worth it, you know? So it's like, the story doesn't need to bring it up. It was just something I thought about. So I wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
But anyway, we get,
and then the you know, the Nanahoshi stuff, you know.
Oh yeah, I've been talking. You can talk if you want.
I think that's where he kind of mentions like, hey, I'm gonna need to fight Orsted.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. Or wait.
Well, because he's trying to use
that in chapter 6.
No. Well, in chapter 6 he's planning for it, but in chapter 4, in chapter 4 I'm pretty sure because I wrote the quote of him saying that he can't trust either of them, so I'm pretty sure at that point in chapter 4 he's saying to Nanahoshi, because he wants Nanahoshi's help in finding Orsted, because that's something that future Rudy wasn't able to do because Nanahoshi died, right? Because Nanahoshi was the one closest to Orsted, and that's what he uses her to get to Orsted. So yeah, that's chapter 4.
Okay.
Chapter 5 was Eris getting the letter.
Yeah, that is some good Eris shit.
Well, I love the Rudy letter. Let me see that, and she's like reading it, and it's like, shit, I can barely read.
Yeah. And then she's like, Nina, you read this. And he's like, I can't read either. And she's like, what? You're never going to get far in life. She's like, well, but you can't read. Like, what the fuck? And it's like, and then of course, boss ass Isold comes in. He's like, let me fucking read this shit. And I love.
And she's like, what is wrong with this guy?
Like, the more like she reads it, the more she starts grimacing, and then she's just like, you shouldn't read this. Like, this is this guy's fucked. And then. Of course, Eris is adamant. She's like, read it. And when she starts reading it, and I love the little the bickering between Isold and Nina. And Nina's like, I don't know. He seems pretty sincere and pretty apologetic. Like, and if what he's saying is true, like, yeah, Eris kind of did him dirty. Like, I don't. It seems like she should talk to him. She's like, no, but obviously Isold is hyper biased because she's an avid Millis, you know,
Millis, yeah, of course,
Millis person. So. It makes sense.
You should kill him. No, she doesn't say that, but
you should just murk him.
But of course, it ends with like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna fight Orsted," and she's like, "Let's fucking go!" Because in her mind, like that's what they've been working for the whole time, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's so crazy how because she's like so distraught for only a moment, but as soon as it's like, "Oh wait, there's a PS here," it's like, "I'm gonna fight Orsted." It's like. Hell yeah, you are. Let's do it.
And then, 5 chapters later, it's like, I got lost in the woods. Like, she's not even that far away. But, like, she's just stupid.
Well, it's so funny, too, because she's so gung-ho about it that she's literally, she gets lost because she's trying to find her own makeshift shortcut. And therefore gets lost and makes it and turns into a longer endeavor. It's very Eris stuff.
They go on a whole ass adventure.
Of course, Ghislaine's stupid too. So Ghislaine, of course, is going along with it. Like, oh, you say so, Eris. It's
like, the way. So like, I don't know. There's something funny about like cuts from something like super serious to like something really goofy. because like the chapter before that is like the bulk of the Orsted fight, which is like super brutal, and then it just cuts to Eris like, yeah, she got lost in the forest, and it's like, good shit. But anyway, we got a little bit more before that. Because there's the general like pre-fight prep time Batman mode of
there's in the preparation there's like a lot of shit. It's like he talks to fucking the man god again, and the man god's like, oh yeah, like if you like, you know, there's like this armor, if you add this and this implement and tell Cliff about this, tell Zenova this, and then you're gonna get this, and it's, you know, very similar to like the fighting god armor, blah 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 blah. And it's like, he's like, man, he's like, oh, also get some implements and like modify them. And it's like, man, you really told me what. He's like, well, you're about to fight Orsted, bro. Like, you kind of need this.
She did. We needed every little fucking bit.
And then we get fucking Ellen Elise, like the pregnant revelation, the funny fucking scene with Cliff using his eye identification, literally looking up his head is literally like in her skirt. He's like, oh yeah, you are pregnant. And then Ruijerd is like the mental note. He's like, I wonder if like there's like letters like pregnant on his like. Yeah. Like, I wonder if he sees like
it's so
the word
stupid.
Just pregnant. He's like, yep, she's pregnant. It's like, it's so stupid. It's so funny, and it's just, it makes it even more bizarre, but in a good way, because like this is literally the preparations to fight the fucking dragon god Orsted, and yet we're having this like little moment. This funny little moment. It's good stuff. And I mean, and speaking of which, right after this is like the you know, kind of like the final dinner he has with his family, and then like Norn is talking about Norn reveals that like Aisha's been making the rice, and then Rudius is like, Aisha, it's rice, jump into my arms, and Aisha's like, is this worth fucking selling? And she's like, yes, it's fucking rice. And then it's like, and then the bickering between Aisha and Norn. Got all the goofy family stuff, and into serious mode.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of I don't know. One so he did the thing where like, because like Rudy explains the power the magic armor to like Cliff and Zanaba, and they're like, let's fucking go. And where meanwhile the like Roxy and Sylvia are like,
don't understand the
and
appeal,
that's I don't know, I want to briefly talk about, because One Piece also does like the exact same joke where guys love robots, girls don't give it, especially in Punk Hazard. I really remember, because you had like all these like like the children and Nami and Robin being like, but I want to talk about like, because like it's like, obviously it's like the reality doesn't really reflect that, because like generally speaking it's like, girls, you know, and especially in Japan maybe girls don't like mecha stuff, but like, I don't know, in a lot of magical girl stuff there, it's not like that. It's not binary. Like, that's the thing. It's like One Piece and Mushoku Tensei presented as kind of binary, and not even ReZero does. There's the Memory Snow OVA, which is Subaru and Amelia going on the date, and there's one joke I love because like, so Petra, the village girl, she makes like a little snow rabbit where you know, like 2 berries in the eyes and leaves to make ears, and Subaru's like, hold on, and he takes the rabbit and he turns it into like a robot thing, and she is not happy with it at all. So it does, like, it's a common joke, but it's just, I don't know, it's just interesting to see how like the media more targeted to males presents it as binary, where media target, like in Smile Precure, there's a whole episode where the pink Precure is turned into a giant robot, and the rest of the team has to pilot the robot from the inside to fight the monsters of the week, and 2 of them are the red and the green ones are very not into it. The blue one's just kind of like, I don't get it. I'm just here for the vibes. And the yellow one loves superheroes and mecha and magical girls and stuff. So she is like having the time of her life. So that's what I mean when I say it's like, it's not just like binary about it, with like girls don't like it and guys do like it. So, I don't know. I just thought about that and wanted to comment on it because, it's a little sexist, but it's not, I don't think it's like harmful, but it's just like, yeah. It is what it is, and maybe it is true to their experiences growing up. So, because in general, maybe girls probably don't like it, but I don't know. I thought it was worth mentioning because it made me think about it. So, what else do I like?
I find the scene pretty harmless, even though I even have like a recent personal experience that's kind of like that, where I actually don't really like robot aesthetic. Whereas my girlfriend is actually into Gundam shit.
There you go.
So but. Even still, like, I know, like, tradition, at least I see quotations. Traditionally, that's not seen as the case.
Yeah, well, even outside
we
of
all have our own aesthetical preferences.
Even outside of like
right?
magical girls and tokusatsu and mecha, is just like, if you look at toys, it's like, with girls it's like dolls and magic, and with guys it's science and blowing things up. Like there's that sort of cultural stereotype, when it's obviously like children are more nuanced than that. So
because I mean I've never been that tradition. Like I keep saying traditionally as if this is like, I don't know it. Like I've
culturally
never been into that ultra masculine kind of like, let's go blow stuff up. Yeah, I've never the shit has never.
Well,
really
I mean, like, because I definitely was like, I was into Power Rangers as a kid, and more stuff for guys. But I also joke about like, maybe I was actually like reincarnated from a young Japanese girl who died, because like some of my favorite anime are Precure and Aikatsu, which are aimed at like Japanese, so I like, so now, but that's a recent thing, relatively speaking, like within the last like 7-8 years or so. So but everyone's more nuanced than that. So, but it's just, I don't know, it's fine. Like, I don't, maybe Eris will think robots are cool, if they rebuild the magic armor.
I mean, that's the thing, though. I mean, even in this reading, Eris is reminded of the fact that she once was thinking, like, as it may be backwards, but traditionally, but I accept that usually it's the woman mage paired with the male swordsman.
Yes, and she's
Rudius are fine being the opposite.
You're right. Yeah, an inverse universe example of like their gender stereotype, because that was Paul and Zenith, right? But now it's Rudy the mage and Eris the swordswoman. It's beautiful. Fuck yeah. And yeah, I'm curious as to how much the fighting god's gonna come up again, because like they mention how, because I don't know, one thing I do think is neat, because even though like Rudy is like breaking new ground when it comes to magic and magic implements, there's all like the fact that the fighting god did have something kind of similar to the magic armor to boost himself, right? But he was also apostle to the man god, so I'm like, what's going on here? Where are we going with this?
What's going on there?
Yeah, so Also,
no.
It's just one last aside of the prep time is, well, one was Perugius having great compassion for those going to their death, like him just being like, don't fight Orsted, the fighting god, or the technique god. Just fucking avoid those guys. But also Rudy's like,
rule 1 of the world: do not fight these 3 people.
Yep. And then of course also like in Rudy's prep time is like, he's just like he's trying to go get poisons, and he just also gets an aphrodisiac, like, just in case, I guess it might work and help him in some way. Case. Like, it's just like, he's just like, he is going for every fucking advantage he can get. Oh, man.
Yeah. And it's like, there's like that little moment even with the fucking underworld guy. He's like, oh, you're trying to get your, I bet Silent Fitz or whatever is like, crazy in bed. He's like, actually, my wife is very docile. He's like, oh, I was like, Rudius, why are you telling her that? Or why are you telling him that? That doesn't need to be said, bro.
Oh yeah, there's all the. One thing I didn't mention about Volume 13 is I like how all the chapters end with like a rumor going around about Rudy, and we sort of.
I was gonna mention that too, I forgot.
Yeah, and then because I remembered it because there was I think I forget who was someone was mentioning how Sylphie or how Rudy like apart in the like when they were shopping and Rudy like grabbed Sylphie's butt and she got mad at him, and I forget who was talking about that, but like like so about him being like he's not hiding his love for Sylphie, right? So he's being maybe a bit too personal, but also he'll grope her in public because he loves the shit out of her and is attracted to her, so
yeah.
Oh man,
come on Rudius. No, it's because I'm even thinking the only one I'm remembering off the top of my head is Rumors of the University number whatever. The boss is a hopeless womanizer. That's the one at the end of the one where he's talking to Sylphie and Roxy. He's like, there might be a third. Like, okay.
It's so good.
It's good shit. But that's the funny shit. We're heading into serious.
Well, no, I still have more funny shit to talk about.
Okay. Well,
because like I mean, so I love how like Norn and Aisha's relationship has been repaired, because like when they're fighting in chapter 7, it's so different from when they were fighting back in like volume 9 and 10, 9 or 10, I forget which one, but both of them. But because it's like it's not really like mean spirited anymore. It's more like playful ribbing, and you get the little art of Aisha poking Norn, and it's like this is the servant poking the cheek of the master, but it's like they're not. That's not really their relationship. Right, like, and it's just it's cute. They're good. They're sweeties.
Yeah, it's turned into like a healthy sibling band.
Exactly.
Basically.
Right, and then before that, a little bit more serious. I thought it was interesting because Zanoba broke his hand on the armor, and Rudy mentioned like that finding that power intoxicating a little, and sort of like understand and he mentions
kind of a little bit what it's like to have battle aura, right?
Yeah. Well. I thought. He also mentioned like Perugius and Atofe, but battle aura. Yeah, I was taking more as just like him, like the feeling of having power over and strength, right, and that sort of like
Oh yeah, I thought he explicitly mentioned that. Maybe he didn't. Maybe
okay. Because I guess because I thought it was interesting. I mentioned Perugius and Atofe because again, taking it, maybe I misread it, but him taking it as just like the intoxicating feeling of being powerful, like Zanova being like a guy who can crush him easily, and then having that like now having this advantage over him through the magic armor. I was just thinking about how in his old Rudius, he uses all of his power as Rudy to do a lot of horrible things, right? Like he loses those reservations. So I was taking it in that way, and noting that he connected to Perugius and Atofe being powerful, but didn't think about himself in the future being powerful. So but maybe I was not thinking battle aura.
No, I mean, you're probably right. He probably did mention those two specifically, because I mean, I will be honest. I'll be upfront. This specific part of Volume 15, I read at breakneck speed because I was really just trying to get to the
Orsted fight. Yeah.
So I mean, I read it. I retained most of everything I read, but I will be honest. I read it very, very fast. So there's some stuff I'm going to be missing for sure. But that's not to say I didn't, like I was saying earlier, I did enjoy the dinner scene, even the lighthearted moments, but also the serious conversation where he's telling his family like, hey, this might be the last time I'm here, and then Norn's like, the fuck? Like, where's this coming from? Like, he's and then he kind of makes her, or she makes him kind of rephrase it as like, well, when I come back. And then he pulls it out, He's like a dad now. He's like wanting to dote on his daughter, basically. It's his little sister, but he's taking on that role. Paul. He's like, let's take a bath together. She's like, you fuck no. And he's like, class. I think he even says classic Norn. Like he thinks to himself, classic Norn. It's funny. But
only baths with Aisha apparently. So
yeah. But I appreciated it, and I appreciated the little, even the subtle detail, and like when he's explaining to Sylphie and Roxy the situation, how they are sitting and they're side by side him, but then eventually they are laying down and they're side by side him, laying down on the bed. I thought was kind of like cool way to show the passage of time with him explaining things. So there are some portions even before the battle where I did kind of slow down my pacing because I was kind of in the moment of the reading, but
I was skimming through it again because I wanted to like highlight. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but like when Rudy because after Roxy says you should really talk about this with Sylvie too, and he goes to get her, and she's like free, like, oh man, we got to get busy on that second child, and she's like the way they describe her like sitting like on her back on the bed but with her butt against the wall and her feet up is just like, and him like walking in on her like that is just so cute. And again, she's so good. Good stuff.
Good stuff. And then we get
to the Orsted fight with him pulling out every fucking stop. And
this is when we really get a good idea of what Rudius can do when he's like going all out, and not, because one thing I think that's important to note is something that Eris points out to Cliff in the Goblin Slayer extra chapter, where Cliff is using very impressive spells, but Eris is not impressed. And the reason she's not impressed is because she notes, well, Rudius could have done this, but a lot more efficiently without using as many flashy moves.
Yes.
Because he only uses what is necessary in the moment. Because he's good enough mage and he has that control to do so. Well, most of the time we see Rudius fight, he's utilizing that restraint because there's always outlying parties, people that can get caught up in his magic, and he's very worried about people, getting caught in the crossfire. He doesn't want to kill people. Now he's in an isolated environment with the dragon god.
That someone who he wants to, who he's
trying
to kill. Exactly.
He is here to kill. So it's like crazy to see now that he has that freedom, what he's actually capable of doing. Especially now that he has spent some years at the University of Magic.
And all these months of prep time and like pulling out every possible stop to go against Orsted with everything that he has.
He's like Batman with the prep time too. Yeah.
And just like we never like this is kind of like I remember because I was pointing out to a friend with One Piece because this was before Wano and I like because he likes Zoro a lot and I was pointing out how like Zoro really hasn't been pressed post time skip. Right, like if you think about all his fights with Yozo and Pika, it's like he wasn't really like struggling with those fights at all, right? So and then King gave him what he wanted because he wanted to see like Zoro putting in all that effort, and I was just I remember like bringing that up to him of just like like and there's a catharsis there I think too, and I think we get that with Rudy where it's just like he's been holding back for so long, and now he can finally like let it loose, right?
Yeah, to the point where he's even thinking like before he uses his next spell after the initial lightning, like he feels it pulling at his mana, but he just lets it happen. And he's just it almost rings like he's not used to doing this. Like it is almost an alien feeling to him, but he knows that he's in an environment where he needs to put that much mana in every fucking spell. But dude, I mean just. But the even the initial succession of spells is crazy. It's lightning into insane into using that saint level water spell to freeze everything around and like deep freeze it, like making it a mini ice age in this one location, into fucking Madara meteor, like Madara Uchiha spawns in and is like summoning a fucking meteor with his goddamn Rinnegan into a fucking literal nuke. It's like this guy is fucking crazy when left to like his, because that's the first time he used a spell like that, a nuke. He's like, oh yeah, I like envisioned a nuclear explosion, but because I have the mana and the magical control to do this, I can just create a fucking nuke on top of everything else. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ. And what's even more crazy is Orsted is running at him still just fine.
When that all happens and it just feels the killing intent, it's like, oh fuck. And yeah, Orsted just comes running at him. And I guess to make another One Piece comparison, I was thinking about how it's kind of like a super intense Luffy versus Usopp, right? Where it's like you have one guy who's just really strong versus one guy who has all this prep time and this techniques and this strategy. And so it's interesting to see that kind of dynamic, but at this level relative to the setting, right? Because it's like Luffy versus Usopp, but Usopp's now fighting Gear 5 Luffy, right? Like one of the Fire Red Emperors.
Exactly. It's literally it's end of series Usopp versus Gear 5 Luffy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like what it feels like, and just like how Luffy versus Usopp was, Luffy winning was inevitable, just as Orsted winning this fight.
Well,
is
and what's especially good is that like because they even highlight how like he pressed Orsted fucking hard, right? Like because even there's a part where he comes out and he just heals himself, and Rudy's like, fuck, but then it's like, no, because of my power, my mana regenerates really slowly, so it's like he had him on the fucking ropes, right? Fuck. And this is where Rudy's at in the setting, and I think that's what, because I was even talking about how like the way he just keeps looking down on himself. So like getting this where it's like, no, if he applies himself, if he uses all of his connections and all of his mana, he fucking uses all that capacity, and like his hair goes white as they talk, which is possibly why Sophie's hair went white, but Rudy's hair is coming back, but hers, I don't know, they didn't dwell on that too long, but just like, seeing him finally go all out, and it has to be against like literally the strongest guy in the world, and it's like, it's cool, and it's cathartic, and oh god.
Yeah, just the God, like it's crazy. Like the scene where Rudius is like pummeling an airborne Orsted with the successive stone cannons, and then like his entire coat comes off, and he sees all the damage he's done. He's like, "Yes, I can win." And then just to have Orsted go, "Well, it seems like I gotta." Seems like I gotta go all out. I guess it's like, oh, he hasn't been going all out. Oh, fuck! And then I love this moment where it's like everything goes white, and on instinct, it's like a cat feeling danger. He just leaps, and then the thought he's like, that light, was that death? And it's like, oh shit, because he sees a crater where he just jumped off of it. He's like, what the fuck magic was that? He's like, I think I just saw my death right there. That's fucking crazy. It's like, holy shit. That even like the eye of foresight coming in and being an asset for him when he needs it the most. Because if he didn't have that, he would have just fucking died right there. It's crazy. Yeah, and then God, just the. Just again, and how everything kind of turns around for the worst as soon as Orsted pulls out his fucking sword, and he's just like cleaving the magic armor like goddamn butter.
There goes Hulk. Just
yeah. There he is. Oh, there's my arm. Oh, now I'm flying at supersonic speed.
Well, like the way it's described, where it's like, oh, Orsted suddenly started moving really far away from me, but it's like, I mean, relativity is a bitch, you know. So,
Yep. Nope, I'm just flying. And then, oh yeah, I love the note about like whenever he impacts and he's like he feels like his organs just splattering, but he is immediately getting healed.
Yes.
By
Oh
the
god.
magic armor. It's like that magic armor really fucking coming in clutch, man. Holy shit.
And specifically it's Cliff's thoughtfulness, right? Like, you know, just Cliff being a cool guy again. It's like, yeah. And then of course you get. I mean, it's like they kind of show it in the opening, like the illustrations at the front of the volume of you know, Eris coming in. It's just like, let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go.
So like I already mentioned, her getting lost and that being funny, but then like the fact that I don't know, for some reason like I got my hopes up a little bit because Aisha was the first one to notice Eris when she came to the house, and I remember thinking like, holy shit. You have like genius like, you know, troll Aisha and Eris, the fucking dumbass, and I was like, this could be amazing. But Aisha was a good girl, and she just, you know, like Eris was staying out there for an hour, like too nervous to go in, and until like she finally gets invited in, and Aisha's just like cleaning up and making everything nice for her, and oh god, it's good.
It's great.
Yeah. And of course, when we go back to did you have any more before we go back to Orsted, or because there was a little bit of other stuff that happens.
What you're talking about is right before.
Yes, this is like the flashback to how Eris got here. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I did think about this when, you know, obviously Rudius is when he's on death's door. I love the moment where he's like trying to get up and he's like, man, I feel really exhausted. He's like, wait, is this what it feels like to be out of mana? Fuck. It's like, oh,
right?
Shit,
like
man. He really.
Yeah, well, it hasn't happened since he was a kid, right? So
we see the bottom, man. Well, because it's been that long that he doesn't even remember what it feels
exactly.
like.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. And then when Orsted is bringing his hand in close, I was wondering, to kill Rudius, Orsted does not need to bring, there's so many more efficient ways to kill, like literally just stab him with a sword. He's bringing his hand in to where the point where that's all that Rudius can see for a little bit. His hand is right in front of his face. Was Orsted trying to heal him right there?
Yeah, it was because yeah, that probably the other possible option might be the fact that because he has this curse that he can't go all out, so maybe that was, or because right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, because maybe that was holding him back, but I like what you said better. So
Well, I think so. The curse where quote unquote he can't go all out
Yeah.
is not that he can't go all out; it's that he chooses not to because of the mana.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Oh, right.
So when he
Okay.
says that in
that
that
makes
moment,
sense.
where
That
he's
makes
like, where he's
sense,
like, so it looks like I have. He starts going all out.
Okay, yeah.
Right then, and that's when Ruijerd starts getting his armor and shit chopped off, and that's why Orsted's like, yeah, I depleted most of mine. Like I need to replenish it now. Like you got to do work for me, bro, because you kind of kaput me out. But yeah, it's not that he can't. It's that like it's most people don't. He doesn't need to go all
No,
out.
yeah. Well, even Rudy, like he's like, I only needed 30% of my magic from my magic armor in the bad future to fight off most of the people that I encountered, right? Like, because he was talking about like the limits of his mana capacity and with because the armor taking so much, but you know. So yeah, of course. So yeah, it's similar with Orsted being so strong. It's like, yeah, most people he doesn't like with Rudy as a kid and Ruijerd. It's like he didn't need to do shit, you know. So yeah. But yeah, when Eris gets like when Eris sees Orsted and sees like, yeah, like Rudy may be fucked up, but he pressed Orsted to this point. Let's fucking go. She's so excited and proud of him is good. And then the way Orsted sort of works as like the final boss, like. Because they highlight how make Orsted come to you and and he taunts her, right? And like he's basically a perfect counter to the person that Eris was, and like they also specifically highlight the like he recognizes how different she is in this timeline basically because of Rudy. And it's just like, I don't know, a really cool moment because of like, I guess to compare it is, I'm pretty sure you haven't touched Black Clover, but Black Clover in its current arc has a really fucking awesome scene where, because the main character has like anti-magic capabilities, so the main antagonist who has similar, like he can see the alternate future, but it's a world where the main character wasn't in it. And like all these characters are dead, and all these characters are way weaker, and it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I like that see where this character who sees the alternate world is like recognizes the change that has happened because of the main character. Basically, it's just fucking cool in regards to like shattering the chains of fate and stuff. You know,
I love that exchange where it's like, is this who you are now, Eris Boreas Greyrat? She goes, it's just Eris Greyrat, and he goes, not the Eris I know then. And it's like, I thought that specific dialogue exchange is so fucking cool. And then she's talking about like, no, once Rudius gets healed up, we'll fight you together. She's like, oh, Eris talking about fighting with someone else. You really have grown, like, and there's so much more to it than that too, because of you would think. To the old Eris, it might even be look at like a submission, but it's not, especially given the resonant words that Nina had. It resonates with this moment now that Eris is in the situation. I love that internalization she has, where she's like, when she was a kid looking at Orsted, it was like a tall tower, but most of it was obscured by clouds. She couldn't see the top. But now that she's ascended those clouds on her own tower, she can see the top. And now she sees the impossibility of that.
Yeah.
And she, from the moment she got here, she gave up on fighting Orsted alone, especially. Mm-hmm. And even still, fighting Orsted with Rudius to a win, even. Like, that just doesn't seem to be even possible to her. It's like, I'm here to make sure Rudius lives, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So basically, all of this is to say that she is actualizing Nina's answer before, in that right now she's here to ensure that Rudius survives so that she can carry on living with him. Mm-hmm. She's not here to defeat Orsted, truly.
Yes. That
ended the moment she came here. Maybe that ended perhaps the moment she heard Rudius went out to fight Orsted alone. Mm-hmm. I think that's so, like, Eris, the way it's so cool, man. And how you see also that it even manifests in her techniques, where the previous Eris, she was kind of straight and narrow. She was a beast that only went in one direction. And now here she's before she attacks, she uses a wonky North God style technique. But I mean, obviously, it's not necessarily all coming from her. It's coming from the advice that Gaul tells her. But the fact that she's even utilizing that advice in real time in the first place is also, an example of her growth. It's just, it's really cool how she remembers all these things Gaul is telling her. How she is, she's not at all, as you said, perplexed by what he's saying. She's just so fucking cool.
Eris good.
What I'm trying to
Eris
say.
good.
I don't got anything too epic to say other than she's just so fucking cool, man.
But then, sorry, go ahead.
No, you can.
Well, I was going to move on to a different thing, so.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say, what was I going to say?
Oh no.
Well, whatever. You go ahead.
Anyway, I was going to talk about, because so right after that was like, we see how fucked up Rudy is. And Orsted threatens Rudy's family, and Rudy, like, literally, like, his man is fucking gone, he's physically just ruined, and he just, like, hits himself to stop the trembling and goes to grab his fucking staff, because it's like, Orsted just threatened to kill all of his fucking family. Let's fucking go. Round 2, motherfucker.
Even before that, though, like, I don't know if it was the same for you, but when Orsted just looks at him and goes, and says his name, like, I thought to myself, like, I can just see the voice acting already. Rudios Grerat.
Oh no, I didn't think about it like that. Okay.
I thought, like, it was so visceral in my head. I was like, oh, I got chills. I was like, oh shit. And then because, like, even Rudius's response, like, he's shivering, he's shaking. Like, there's got to be power in that call out. Like, it's gonna be peak. It's gonna be great. But even before that, like, the conversation that Eris has before she comes here with Roxy and Sylphie is so cool, because then they get here and they're like, oh, Eris was not overreacting. Why did we let Rudius come here? Look at Rudius. Look at this guy. Holy fucking shit. It's crazy. There's just, again, I don't really have anything insightful to say here other than, like, it makes me feel so much in so many different ways. Seeing all these characters I love at this point. And the fact that, like, Ghislaine is just a fucking she just lets Eris go and fight the dragon god. Like, that trust, right? As a fellow Sword King. And the fact that she only interjects when Eris is explicitly talking about her own demise, I thought was so fucking cool. Ghislaine is so cool. Anyway,
but just, like, the way, like, because Orsted, like, obviously he only threatened his family to sort of set up for the, like, alternative, right? Because he gives, the man god gave Rudy a choice of, like, kill Orsted or we're gonna fucking throw hands, and Orsted's like, join me, and it's like, yes, this is what I needed. And it's just like, yes, it's very good.
And then the immediate what are you saying? And don't do it, Rudy. It's like Perugius is like,
because they're cursed, so that they hate Orsted. So of course they don't think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So no. Because of the curse, they don't notice what Rudius can, since the curse doesn't affect him. That quiver in his voice, and I thought that was so fun. That's such a cool. Yeah.
Because I read that as, like, he's like, Orsted is seeing this chance in front of him, right? Like, this hope. And or maybe he's even like, because I don't think it's fear, because I feel like even weakened Orsted could win this fight. Like, he could kill them all if he needs to, right?
Yeah, it's like it's not fear. It's like it's
desperation.
It's just like hope. It's just like with Rudius,
like
desperation.
The chance
desperation,
to
just like with Rudius.
Exactly.
The reason Rudius is here is out of desperation, and now, it resonates with him, of course. And then just the idea of, like, him kneeling to Orsted in front of Eris is so, like, who would have thought? Who would have thought this moment would happen after reading Turning Point 2? Who would have thought after Turning Point 4 we'd have Eris sit here after fighting Orsted as well, watching Rudius bow to Orsted and swear fealty to him?
Oh man,
who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Oh, yeah, and so, that's what I was saying earlier, is, like, I could see this being a potential ending point if they wanted to not, like, adapt, like, this as a whole season, but, because after that, it's, like, it's some falling action of just, like, I mean, really, God, it's still so good.
I wanted to mention, but before you get into the falling action, I want to say it is really cool how one of the first things Orsted says to Rudius after he kneels to him is because Rudius goes, can you really protect my family? Orsted says something interesting. He says, well, it's not assured. I don't know if I can, but all I know is the man god is not all powerful. Mm-hmm. So there are ways we can circumvent his power, basically. And I love the immediate contrast between him and the man god, where man god always made concrete promises.
Yes.
Rudius, do this and you will receive this. Here, Orsted is doing the exact opposite. He's saying, well, I can definitely help you, but I don't know exactly where this is going to lead us, basically. So already there's more of like a trust there.
Right. When
Orsted's being up front.
God. Yeah. But just think about the man god, and is like any human can be he can whisper in their ears and manipulate, like with Luke, as you mentioned, right? And it's like going forward, like any human can be manipulated by a man god, and then and now enemies everywhere, right? And I think about because obviously it's like we have the Darius and the Austrian nobility conflict, and it's like they're all humans. How's that gonna work out? Because I imagine because obviously Rudy gets the bracelet so that the man god can no longer reach him. But I imagine just for safety's sake, he should tell people to watch out for the fucking man god because he's a manipulative fuck, right? But then again, maybe they don't. I don't know. It's it's an interesting stage of conflict because of who they're up against and what their capabilities are. So I'm very curious as to see how it's gonna go with Rudy doing Orsted's missions and finding the 5 relics and trying to figure out how to kill this motherfucker. So that's gonna be cool. And yeah, satisfying, I'm sure. But yeah. But yeah, we get the.
Oh boy!
So yeah,
and we get we get the cute little Eris part of the family.
Yeah.
But not only half part of the family because Rudius. This is I love, by the way, in this volume, I'll never forget. I don't know how this had to have been in the web novel. How did I forget this? This is peak. I was no longer Rudius. I was Rudius.
Well, it might have been translated differently. Maybe what happened because this was.
But it's so funny. Oh my god, that's so good. He's like, I'll be frank. I fell back in love with Eris. I was no longer Rudius. I was Woodius. I was like, that's so funny, dude.
Bro. And honestly, funny. Just the Rudy just losing his spaghetti over her, especially when he runs into her in the bath and instead of he's just kind of avoiding her the whole time and not really addressing the elephant in the room with her because he's just trying to work through it, obviously. But then he runs into the bath and he just grabs her boot and then she just hits him and it's Rudy.
Back to old times.
Stop ruining everything. No, it's great. It's good. It's really good. And then we also have the their duel where Eris sort of puts the choice in Rudy's hands, and I was even thinking he could just give up. And sure enough, he just gives up, and it's really a really, really sweet scene. So yeah,
it's super. It's oh man, it's great because Ghislaine too, man, is just how she's such a good observer for all of these scenes. She her character is doing just enough and on all of these scenes, and the little note she gives to Rudy, she's like, Rudius. Fundamentally, Eris is the same. So do what you must with that information. It's you're the goat, Ghislaine. You're the goat.
I also like the line where, because I think they're talking about the scary sword kings coming into town, and Giz is her, people reacting to her. But I think she has a line about I think Rudy's actually scarier than me because he's the one who fought Orsted, So
oh yeah, and he got a lot of respect points from his sisters for that. Yeah.
Oh, and also just the neat tactical move of him having Ghislaine go to work for Ariel is just because obviously it's she struggled against very powerful sword users in the other timeline, and that's what killed her and Sylphie, right? But so he's hey, let's put a maneuver a sword king here, and that'll help, I think. And just obviously it's it gives her a way to come back into the story later, right? So what was I gonna say?
Yeah, I think. Oh man, like I don't I can't cook like Sylphie. I'm not my proportions are fitting
Yeah.
you, and he's like, oh, you're beautiful, and she's like, and she's like, I can't do this. She's like, oh, you're a badass, and just like all these things. He's basically just like, yeah, I know, Eris, I know, yeah, I love you, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's cute, it's sweet. I love that scene. I love it
Mhm.
so much. Like her induction into the
Oh my
family
god.
is
Like that's
is so
like I like the
fucking
volume, but
cool.
like I needed that extra chapter at the end. Holy fuck.
Oh, isn't it so good? Because especially given how in the Eris Grey Rat Part 2 chapter, whenever they have that announcement and everything, and
Mhm.
Norn just kind of accepted it at this point.
Zenith
You
was
have
yeah.
Zenith
Yes,
hitting
I mentioned
Rudius,
it earlier because it's
but
so
literally in
good.
the extra chapter, it ends with the wholesome ass interaction between Eris and Zenith,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh my fucking god.
Yeah.
Holy shit! So while Zenith is mad at Rudius for
Right.
going against Saint Millis, at the same time,
It's not Eris's
even
fault.
before, yeah,
You
but no,
know?
no, no, no. It's that she, just like Sylphie and Roxy, she's smiling because she can see Eris's love for
Mhm.
Rudius. And that's what matters at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
To both of the other wives as well, and to everyone for that matter too. But I thought that was sweet. It was so good. And of course, the
Sylvie and Roxy are
the
okay
not
with it.
so
Let's
sweet.
go. Or is that what we meant? The
Yeah,
sex?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The not so sweet stuff is
Yeah.
well sweet in a way.
Yeah.
I love how Eris is like he's a total. I mean, she's like it's the kind of the gray rat meme where they're all like horny bastards.
I've been waiting for this for like 10 years. Give it to me.
Yeah,
So.
she's like bloodshot eyes. I love the detail how he's like kyaing like a schoolgirl as she is.
And also, so are you familiar? Like, because he mentioned the Tokugawa Toyotomi Oda. Are you familiar with that?
I was waiting
Yeah,
for you
it's
to
because
explain.
I love that. I love how you're like used to me explaining color. So it's I forget the given names, but they're all well. You probably at least know of Nobunaga Oda, who is
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I forget the other two's full names, but they're basically all notable Japanese rulers, shoguns, and rulers. So Tokugawa, I believe it's like there's a poem that you probably heard some variation of where it's like if the bird won't sing, make it sing. If the bird won't sing, wait, and if the bird won't sing, kill it. That's sort of meant to sort of differentiate the three's personalities. So like, well, I don't know. I feel like because like make it sing because it's supposed to be analogous to torture specifically. So but at least like that's an example of like how these three rulers are both like they're all it's like kind of like comparing like George Washington, Ben Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson or something like that. Like that's sort of like the example. But yeah, it's like so there's like so he's just thinking about how like Eris is incredibly aggressive, Sylphia is more passive, and then Roxy is more like technical. That's the sort
Okay,
like so
gotcha,
but so
gotcha.
I don't know exactly how that applies to the three shoguns, but it's more of just like the famous historical figures that are contrast each other, and him applying his wives to them is funny. So I don't know because like the thing is like because what the poem is like the bird won't sing, make it sing, make it want to sing. So I read that like that's like that. Well, that's like treating it nicely, right? Like treating a prisoner nicely so that they betray their previous side, right? Like in war. And or if the bird won't sing, wait and just like wait for it to want to, and then or yeah, if it won't sing, just kill it and get another bird. That's Nobunaga Oda. He's the cruel one. So that's like would be the Eris comparison where she just like fucks Rudy into submission basically. So
Eris is Oda. Eris is Goda. Oh my god.
So yeah, there's probably more to it because obviously that's the thing. It's like if you're in Japan, you'd grow up hearing about these multiple times throughout your school years, so it becomes like second nature to you. But as an outsider, I only kind of know. So I've seen Nobunaga Oda in anime and shit, and I did watch, I've seen some others like I did watch Shogun, but that's an American show, but not the new one that people like, the old one that is whatever. So.
Gotcha.
But anyway, I'm also glad that I feel like we have this dynamic down now. And now after enough of this, where he's just like, I'm gonna let Krauss explain it to me. It's like this specific historical context to me. And I'm like, okay.
Yep.
And you had my fucking number.
Literally, as the night I was reading it, that's what I thought. I was like, I'll just have Krauss.
And sure enough, because I even looked into it because I was like, you figured that, I guess, like, or at least you're aware of me enough that, like, even if I don't happen to know, I would have looked it up. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. So.
Salute to thee, brother. Salute to thee.
But yeah.
But wait, there's more.
Yes.
Because they wake up and Rudius is communing with the wise old sage, but the wise old sage his mission is accomplished. He is going back to, I guess, wherever his temple, in Rudius's consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
He's packing up for good. And as Rudius is lamenting the passing of the wise old sage, Eris awakes to see him groping her simultaneously. To his maybe.
So in the afternoon when I really woke up.
Yeah, basically, he gets raped again. TLDR, and then. And I love it. It's small little things like this.
I love rape. HotBoySpicy 2024.
Well, yeah. That and also the fact that whenever he looks, he's like, I saw the empty bed. Just kind of reminiscent of before when I saw the empty bed, but this time I wasn't anxious.
Yeah,
it's like, man, he really is like. He's a new man now. Man. Like he's got his security back. Like he knows Eris isn't going to leave him again.
Mm-hmm.
Like he sees that empty bed, doesn't even matter to him. Because he looks outside and look who's there. She's smiling ear to ear, fucking swinging her sword, doing the sword of light, which gives Rudius the inspiration later on to attempt a grope of light. That's another one of his quips that I was finding very funny.
He's so dumb.
He's like, try to guard against my grope of light, Eris. It's like, you're such a fucking dork, bro. Come on.
But yeah, then we get then we move on to the Orsted conversation.
Which is loaded.
Yes. So especially because I was even thinking, I was looking at my notes. Well, one, Eris is just, I don't know, she's just so dumb, and she's just going to go along, and she doesn't even know what the fuck they're talking about, but she's just like, I'm gonna be there with Rudy, and when Orsted's involved, it's like, yeah, she's so good. But
yeah, well, and it's so funny how easy she is, too, where it's just like, how she gets her to say
that was what I was, thank you for reminding me. That's why I wrote down Eris is so dumb. It's because Rudy was able to, spin her around so quickly, right? And
by just saying hey, if he is tricking us, we'll just fight him together. And she's like, oh, fight him together? Okay, yeah, that's epic.
When obviously has no intent. Yeah, exactly. But some things that I noted down from their conversation was, Orsted's willing to see Rudy as an equal because obviously, Rudy stood toe to toe with him, right? That's not a normal thing. Most people can't do that. But Rudy's fucking terrified, so he's just being as subservient as possible. I love the fucking direction where he's like, working for you is fine and all, but money would be nice. And he's like, okay, here you go. Have this ancient sword that's incredibly valuable, and I get some gems. Do you want more? And he's like, no. This is too much. The opposite. This is too much. But that didn't really get across.
Orsted is actually just the best boss ever.
Yeah.
He's actually a great guy.
He gives him literally enough money to last for generations. It's oh, okay, cool. Well, potentially that's the problem. Is the sword, where do they find someone to sell the sword to? Yeah. But then of course there's also Orsted, Rudy having that resolve to protect his family and do anything for the I forgot to mention when he begged to Orsted in the fight when he was you can kill me but please just don't touch my family, and then when Orsted denies him, he bites his fucking boot because that's the only thing he can do in that moment. It's but that's what made Orsted go I can work with this person, right? Because he understands what Rudy cares about, right? And what he's wanting, why he's fighting Orsted, right? Because he wants to protect his family. He's willing to go against, why wouldn't he go against the man god for his family? It's yeah.
That's resonant with Orsted because
yes,
the main reason he's doing this is because his father was killed by the man god. Mm-hmm. So
which of course the man god's I didn't do anything to Orsted. Fuck you.
Fuck you, bro.
Because it's technically true, but he's just a piece of shit.
And I love that. It's like, what? Why do you hate the man god? It's who wouldn't hate that cretin? It's yeah, fair enough.
Until you have room to art, yeah, that's fair. But yeah, so, and I think Rudy noticed this contradiction too. But if I remember correctly, because Perugius mentioned that Orsted is 100 years old. Orsted gave the number 2,000 years old. That didn't. Am I misremembering or?
Oh, that Orsted is so.
Well,
because you said Perugius said Orsted was over 100 years old.
Yeah,
right?
he gave a number like closer to, or I thought he said 100 years old. Maybe I'm misremembering.
100 years old.
No, eight, not eight, but 100. Like I wrote down 100.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure that I didn't. Okay, just making sure that you heard me properly.
So I think the discrepancy there has to do with the divulging of like his true age if you take into account the time he's fast forwarded.
Okay, so
2,000
years ago is when he was born, but he's only 100 years old because that basically like kind of like how Rudy he's been in this world for X amount of years, but he's actually this old, it's like that kind of like that. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Because Perugius, I guess, might not know even that Orsted, or maybe he probably does know, but he's probably only saying Orsted's like
biological
how
age.
he's aged in the current.
Right.
Yeah.
Orsted is young for a dragon folk because Perugius is like several centuries old, right? But
Yeah.
But yeah, Orsted was thinking
that gets me into my other I'm curious because I know the six-faced world. There's like the dragon realm and how the dragon realm collapsed, and then now they're here. So is every dragon folk? Or do they all come from the collapsed dragon realm?
I thought this was mentioned relatively early on, where there was multiple worlds, because there was also there's the other gods, and then they all collapsed except for the human world, and all the that's why all these people are.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm retarded. Yeah,
okay, it's fine. Okay, but then we find out the lore about Laplace, and that he was a demon king, the second dragon god. And he was sort of given the mission to pass down techniques and stuff for Orsted to fight against the man god with, and then he split into two because of the fighting god, and it's like, oh, so there's demon god Laplace and technique god Laplace, and that was a whole thing. And of course,
but also the demon or dragon, the dragon demon.
Yes.
God. King.
Sure.
What was it? What was his title before?
Demonic Dragon King.
Demonic Dragon King. Yes. So he literally has 3 versions of himself. This guy is like Xehanort.
Oh, actually, now that I'm thinking about, hold on, wait, there was something else. Hold on. So I'm wondering if there's a thing in myth, because I'm just realizing this is the 3rd time I've seen this fucking trope of dragon being split into 2 dragon beings. Kingsfield has the god Vlad, and then there's 2 dragon gods, Gyra and Seath, who you might recognize the name Seath because it was reused in Dark Souls as Seath the Scaleless. Again, Kingsfield being the FromSoft art game they made before Dark Souls. But so there's like a dark and a light dragon god that so then Pokemon has so basically I think the myth goes that a meteor hit the Earth, and the meteor was a Pokemon called Kyurem, but then it split in, there's also that was the original, and then part of it split off into Reshiram and Zekrom, who are the black and white dragon legendary Pokemon of the 5th generation, and in the sequel Black and White 2 they can you can combine Kyurem with either Reshiram or Zekrom because they were originally part of the same whole, so they get new forms basically. And now you have Laplace, the demonic dragon king, and then he has his 2 halves, the demon god and the technique god, and I'm like, what is this referencing? This is the 3rd time I've seen this, all in different decades, mind, because Kingsfield was in the 90s, Pokemon was in the maybe Black and White was the early 2000s, was it 2010? Maybe it was the same decade. That would be the same decade as Mushoku Tensei then. So, because Mushoku Tensei started in 2012. So, I'm just freaking out because I'm like, I've seen this multiple times. I don't know why. There's got to be some kind of cultural, mythological story that it's referencing, but I don't know that story. I just see all these things. There's no way both Pokemon and Mushoku Tensei are just referencing Kingsfield of all things, just because that happens to be the oldest one. So maybe, but I feel like it's unlikely. It's got to be something else. So if anyone happens to know, I would love to know that because that's very curious. So yeah.
I forgot what was explained here because Orsted is noted as the second and most powerful dragon god. Because he's the son of the first, but then also
Laplace was the second dragon god.
Laplace was also the second.
Yeah.
What was the explanation for how they were both the second? I don't remember.
I forget because I imagine history would remember Laplace as the second, but maybe he's technically the third is the thing. But that doesn't really get addressed, so I don't know.
Maybe it's like that was Orsted's birthright, but he had to get reincarnated in the future.
Yeah, maybe.
So because of that.
He's the 100th. Isn't he actually like the 99th dragon god?
Stayed.
Or something like that? Or doesn't he mention?
Oh, that's right. He says he's the 100th.
Right.
Yeah.
That was it. Okay. So
He's the 100th. He's the 100th because he was going to be the second, but he's the 100th because he got sent in the. That's right.
Reincarnated in the future. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Jesus, yes. There's so much information kind of gets tangled around each other. People splitting up, people becoming 100 dragon. I don't know. There's so much.
Yeah, we also find out
and then also the Laplace aspect is another fucking layer. God damn.
Well, because Orsted mentioned that in the thing, and I was like, what the fuck? But then we find out that not only Sylphie has an aspect of Laplace, and that sort of so it turns out that because we were talking about that for like several episodes, right, of like Rudius's mana capacity, and it turns out that like it's a mixture of both. He has this aspect of Laplace that allows him to have this greater mana capacity, but as Orsted says, is like he still worked for it, right? So that, which is what I'd been saying the whole time, but I thought it was only that, but it wasn't just that. But it's like, because Sylphie again also has a large mana capacity, but she didn't work as hard as Rudy, so her mana capacity isn't nearly as large, right? So it's like, even though she had the same advantage, but she didn't utilize it as well, right? Because she didn't start using magic as early, and she didn't use it as much, so she doesn't have the full benefit of this capability that she had access to, right? So that makes so that it's like, it's, which is, it feels accurate, like we're blessed with various privileges due to our environment, or and genetics, or cursed alternatively, in your case, in some aspects, as you've talked to me a lot about, with with your health, I guess. But then,
I'm sorry, I blanked out. We were talking about me all of a sudden.
No, I was talking about how we all have the nature of our birth, but it's like what we do with it that also matters. So it's like Sylphie and Rudy both had the aspect of Laplace, but Rudy worked for it and utilized that benefit that he was born with, right? So I brought up you because I was just bringing up the idea of curses, and you're struggling with your body.
I mean, it's a kind of a fine balance. I mean, at the end of the day, I think my life is kind of a net positive.
I mean, we're just the fact that we're American is a pretty big benefit, right?
Yeah, so, exactly. Right. And
that's kind of what I was getting at, right? Because some people.
Fault as our healthcare system is, I've gotten some help, but even that's been.
It's a lot of different things, not just one thing. But I
mean, if anything, I don't know, fiction became reality for a little bit. I mean, you guys know is the episode that I was talking about how ED arc, like I was in the moment I was reading that, I was going through my own ED arc, but pretty soon after I read Rudius get out of the ED arc, I was out of my ED arc. Very odd how these things happen.
And they say fiction doesn't affect reality.
Yeah,
and
it's just like with Rudius. Like my confidence immediately spiked as soon as I got that figured out. And just like Rudius, I learned mine was pretty much all psychological too. From the one experience of like not being able to perform, I would psychologically fuck myself, and I needed to climb out of that. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy that I was reading the ED arc at the same time. I don't know. It's weird how that. I didn't talk about it at length in that episode, but that's what was happening. It's crazy. Curses, whatever, man. To me, it's like it was kind of now, even because that didn't happen that long ago. Even I look back on it recently, I think it's a worthwhile journey because like I struggled, and now I think I'm stronger for it. Fuck it, just as Rudius struggled to make his mana big and fill that ceiling. Exactly.
All right.
Bring it back.
All right.
Rudius.
You need to be stopped. Oh my God, we've been talking for almost 2.5 hours and we're not done.
Let's go.
But yeah, and then that chapter ends with Rudy bringing up the reincarnation aspect to Eris, but it's like the Rudy Eris knows, like he's still Rudy. He's still the same person
are you
she's known
still
for the whole time.
Rudius? Like that question is like so. Eris is like,
she's-
"You still Rudius?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm still Rudius." She's like, "Okay," and it's so cute. It's the perfect final little sprinkle on top where she's like, "I suppose you don't want to tell Sylphie, you don't want me to tell Sylphie the rest of it." He's like, "Yeah, just wait a minute." She's like, "Okay, but you gotta hold my hand on the way back." It's like, oh, it's so cute. It's so precious.
Yep.
I love you, Eris. I love you, Rudius. Oh my god. Oh my god, man. He still has his people here. Unlike Olvius. He still has his people.
Yeah.
Holy shit. He found Orsted.
Let's go.
He's a subordinate. Oh my god.
Yeah, because now they might
and we're not even done.
Yeah, but wait,
because
there's
we got
more.
The peak extra
Oh
chapter.
my god.
And what a perfect title. A wild blade finds its sheath.
Dude, like,
oh, what a perfect
this
title.
was like, I don't know, because this is what I was like looking forward to, because like, you know, because I was thinking about like, how is Eris going to ingratiate herself with the family? Because like like last episode I was thinking about how just like, or like especially thinking of the fallout from the Rudy and Eris drama, it was just like not only like how is Rudy going to overcome like his deal with Eris, but also like how is she going to work with like Sylphie and Roxy, and like this chapter going into her insecurity because like Sylphie has all these domestic skills and Roxy's a breadwinner, which is just like, you know, Eris has her body and a sword, and it's like, well, fuck, you know, but it's like that doesn't help like going around the house and doing stuff. So she's like help me, like her cutting the cutting board, and Aisha getting like, no, how could you do this? This was a gift. And like, oh shit, that's gonna make her feel even worse about it. But she got the vegetable at least once, you know. And then like her trying to get a job, and like, because I think they even foreshadowed the principal toupee in one of the earlier chapters, and then it turns out Eris was fucking involved within it. God. It's just yeah.
And no, and I love it. It's that moment, and then like Roxy and Sylphie's reassurance of what role Eris fills, and like Eris, you've already like you have already proven your role in the family. Like you've already cemented yourself in here to us. Yeah, especially with you being able to fight side by side with Rudius to even protect him when he's at his weakest. Like, we can't do what you just did, Jesus. Like, you are, like you're, and then you're the swordswoman. You know, you're the pair. You're the pair Rudius needs as the powerful mage. He needs a powerful swordswoman to watch his back whenever he gets a little bit lackadaisical or he can't watch it. You know, that's your fucking role, and that's fucking brilliant.
Yes.
So sweet. And not only that, like, I mean, she's taken, I mean, hell, I mean, even practically speaking, you know, in the days that, you know, because combat is not every day or anything, or life and death combat, rather. I mean, she's tutoring Norn.
Yeah, well, you know, she's already... them bonding over Ruijerd? Yes. Because Rudy even mentioned when he was bringing up the marrying Eris to Norn, she was, like, more okay with it, and, like, well, it's like, oh, that's because she already... bonded. Like the fucking scene with Richard and him being this like rich noble piece of shit and trying to like, I'll protect you, Norn, I'll like just, you know, and him being very possessive and way too comfortable, and Eris being like, I don't give a shit, okay, I will kill a child. Like and just staring the shit out of him. That was, you know, and obviously Norn's like, holy shit, this woman's great. And yeah, the sword training and the Ruijerd, it's like, yes, let's go. So yeah, and then what else? I think that was basically. I think that was basically it. Just like you already talked about.
Yeah, because I mentioned
stuff
earlier, like the best part of the chapter, which is the ending, which was the Zenith and Eris interaction, is beautiful. And I already explained why. So that's really all else I had to say. And then it's so precious. Like whenever she's like, what does she say? But she like flubs it up, and it's like, it's just so cute. It's like, oh, Eris. No, it's peak. This entire reading was like, this is what. So I've talked to Crafts before, and I've mentioned probably already ad nauseum in the podcast, but I'll restate it here, just because it's obviously relevant. Mushoku Tensei is one of my favorite stories of all time, top 3. Even especially, it's special to me in many ways, and we'll see more and more of why It's special. It's still crescendoing even now. I've talked about the iceberg last time. There's more to come, more brilliant stuff to come, but this is the beginning of it. This is where I think Mushoku Tensei truly like elevates itself, and not just elevates itself. It's like massive. It's like an explosion underground happened, and we got a volcano coming out now, and we are now still ascending off the propulsion of the explosion, and this is the initial. Yeah, this is that initial ascension from that explosion. Basically, is what we're getting here in this reading with volume 14 and 15. I truly think volume 14 is the start of the payoff of all the insanely great marination Rifujin does everything prior to volume 14, and we ride on it until the end of the series, at least the mainline series. I think Turning Point 4 specifically is where I know, at least when I was reading the web novel, where Mushoku Tensei became something special for me, where I was like, oh, this isn't just like the best isekai. This is like one of the best. This might be just one of the best stories I'll ever read. And my expectations were met, because it did become that by the time I finished the web novel. That final chapter, I cannot wait to get to that. Well, I can't, but then it's going to end again, and that's bittersweet in its own way. But you're going to love that final chapter just as I did. I can't wait. I can't wait to read it also in light novel form, see if anything's different. But something. But
special. For me, it's like I don't know if it's going to be one of my. I mean, it's a favorite. I don't think it, but like for me, like a favorite is anything I would give like a 9 out of 10 or higher. I don't know if it's going to go further than that at that point, but I mean, I read all of volume 15 and half of 14 in a single day, and I'd think about it after and be like, and I want to talk about it, and so it's like, that's a good sign. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But
it better be. You better give this at least a 9.
Well, it's already there. It's like it can't get worse. So
hey, good.
But yeah.
Maybe by the end it'll be a 10.
Maybe we'll find out. But I don't know. I'm excited. I could read more now. I don't.
Yeah. I guess that's a good question. What do you think you don't have to make a decision now, obviously, but what do you think we're gonna pause, or we're gonna?
Oh, we'll keep going. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I thought maybe, because we did. I mean, in my defense, you did say earlier.
I know.
Volume 15 is a pretty damn good stopping point.
Yeah. I mean, well, I was also thinking about as far as like adaptation at that point, but and you bring it up even before, but it's like, no, I want to keep reading. Maybe not at that pace again, at least for a while, but I want to keep reading. We'll find out, because like, I mean, I feel like after you hit a certain point, it's like, it's hard, you can't keep it going, right? Like there's got like the fact that this volume had the falling action at the fight ended like a little after the halfway point, right? Like that's just normal, it can't keep exploding like that. Like we're going to slow down a little bit and just, I mean, and that's not that say it's not going to be good or interesting, or I'm not going to want to keep reading faster, but I feel like it's like slightly less likely after volume 15 being exactly that. So, especially because like with volume 15, it's like, yeah, with, again, like you mentioned, the crescendo, it's like, for me, it's like the big resolutions were like, what's the fucking deal with the man god and Eris, right? Finally coming back after 9 volumes, like those were the two of the things I really wanted to see, and now I've gotten those. So it's like, now going forward is like, I don't really know what to expect generally, aside from very broadly of just like, they're gonna deal with the man god somehow, and it's like, and I haven't been waiting for 9 volumes. I've been waiting for that for a volume, right? So we'll see how
gripped. There's a lot of surprises.
I'm sure there's the fact that we're only like 2/3 of the way through the story, so that, of course. But yeah. It's good. We'll look forward to reading more and talking about it more. We got this is the 5th episode. Yeah, and we got I think not 4 more for the regular series, and then 1 more for the extra novels. So yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yes, thank you. I know, and I know it wasn't just me that was anticipating this episode so much. It was, well, pretty much all of you guys, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
This is where
Enjoy your 3.5 hour episode, fuckers. I hope you like it.
Effers.
I'm the one who had to edit it. No, I don't. I mean, it might not come out. I don't know when it's gonna come. I got other stuff to do too, so it'll come out.
Well, I mean, hopefully it's an enjoyable listening. Most of it is, I mean, at least on my end, is mostly just me going, I really like this. I mean, because there's not much else to say other than it's peak fiction. It's just, I'm lost for words even thinking about it. Like, it's just, there's so much emotions I feel for it. I don't need to. Mushoku Tensei is one of those rare series, I think, that I really love, but I haven't really put a lot of analytical twists into. Like, I haven't thought extensively about it like I have something like a One Piece or Naruto, but it's just it's on the similar level nonetheless, because it just makes me feel so much at so many given moments.
I sort of feel that too,
matters the most to
because
me.
Like with so for me, because with One Piece I've been with it for so fucking long, like really since 2005 or 2006, so like a lot of my like analysis and thoughts of it have been building for so long, where with like, well, for me, my actual like favorite story that I haven't really like it's more emotional than like logical for me is Muv-Luv, because I've only played each. I haven't even finished all the games, and I've only played the ones I have like once. So there's a lot that I could stand to and I'm glad I'm able to offer that with you, with like offering these sort of like analytical points and contrasts and stuff that you go, I hadn't thought about that, because it's like now, your enjoyment of the series is bolstered even more, even if a little bit, right? And I'm also like having the excuse to read the series is enough, but also having, discussing it with someone. Like, I was even thinking about how, like, because you having to like maneuver around certain spoilers and stuff now that we're finally getting into content I haven't gone through before. Like, I was thinking about, like, especially talking about like Rudy's mana pool and contrasting it with Sylphie, and it's like you remember some of the parts from this reading, but you can't spoil it, but you have to explain it. And it's like, so thank you for dealing with that, because I was even thinking about how maybe it's just that you forgot certain things.
Listen, I'm the reason we're here. I'm the one who chose Mushoku Tensei, knowing full well this is what I'd be getting myself into.
But it's funny, like, thinking back to like some of the things you said, and it's like, did you just forget, or were you just like lying to me, or like I'll try to remember next time I remember you saying something.
I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be honestly very transparent here. I completely forgot about the Laplace aspect.
Okay.
I forgot about all that shit. So yeah.
Because I can't remember. I feel like there were some other parts you mentioned that I wondered if you were maybe like obfuscating something in the past, but I can't remember what they are.
The only thing I remembered is that, like, he naturally had a larger mana pool than everyone else. I did remember that.
Because I mean that's hard to dodge around when it's like they're comparing him to fucking Demon God Laplace.
Again, also that was, I had just recently, both you and I, you just forgot. Both you and I had already seen that recently, because that was already adapted in season 2. That when
it was okay.
That to Rudy.
Well, as I mentioned, I watched season 2 very casually because I like to keep notes on stuff. But if I'm not like directly going to discuss it, or like I've noticed that I've been very lax when it comes to my note taking and a lot of stuff. And that included Mushoku Tensei, because I literally watched Mushoku Tensei season 2 part 2 this year, and I've already forgotten a bunch of it until reading it. So I'm like, wait, fuck. So yeah, because I just like would throw it on while eating, and I'd watch it and maybe take a note or two for. I think I have the episodes that I don't even have notes on, but for the material that it covered, there isn't a chapter that I don't have notes on. So yeah. Anyway, I go to bed soon. But yeah, good.
Yeah, it is almost 1 a.m. here.
All right, but yeah, thanks for listening. See you next time for volume 16 through 18. Yep. I have no fucking idea. Is there going to be a Turning Point 5? I don't even know. Don't say anything. But yeah, thanks for listening, and goodbye, everybody.
See you guys for Turning Point 10.